And Man versus Machine round. What round is this in Man versus Machine? I don't know. But it is another round of Man versus Machine. This week, today and tomorrow, we are going to see the legendary, the one and only Yaacov Norowitz, known online for his blitz and bullet specialty skills. One of the very few non-Grandmaster title players who can ever give guys like Hikaru Nakamura a small run for their money. Yaacov Norowitz is going to be taking on the beast, the monster, the dragon that slayed me not more than a month ago. So Yaacov Norowitz will be taking on Komodo Chess live from Larry Kaufman's dungeon, where he keeps the beast locked up so that it doesn't spend most of its time doing things like that. So Larry is currently busy getting his dragon ready. Yaacov Norowitz, as you can see, is ready and waiting. The show is about to begin. He's going to get his first match. Material odds, we have missing f7 and b7 pawns to start, with Yaacov Norowitz taking on the white pieces. We like to mix it up, so it's not going to be the exact same material odds that you saw me play against Komodo. Again, if you missed those shows, you can find the videos on demand for replay, both in the Twitch library or at our youtube.com/chess channel. So we are ready to get started, and it's time to rock. We've got Larry petting his dragon, and he's ready to go. Yaacov is on the edge of his seat, ready to take on the dragon. And just like that, the games have begun. Okay, so as we check in on the players, we know that Yaacov is going to be doing his best to get the initiative to start here. We are also going to be providing analysis as we can for the game, and breaking down some of the variations that I wasn't able to do when I was playing this match live, and really dive into it, providing some insight, maybe some educational points and takeaways, some thoughts in regards to what Yaacov can do better and what maybe even Komodo can do better, although I say that as, it's an oxymoron to say that Komodo might be able to do anything better. All right, but it's Yaakov's move. If he's not aware, it is his move. I think he's thinking. He's not exactly sure what he wants to do yet, but hopefully he comes up with something here pretty soon. I don't know if the game's going to abort. Adam, okay, good. It's not. Okay, good. I was worried that the game might abort if he didn't make a move. But finally, we have liftoff. Yaacov plays e4. Probably the most obvious thing for white to do here. It does open up the light squares, and there we go. So we have missing f7 and b7 pawns here. From the b7 pawn perspective, you could argue that I think it gets development going even more rapidly on the queen side. So that's not necessarily a bad thing for Komodo. But the f7 pawn, there's no way about it. Missing the f7 pawn is just never good, regardless of the strength that you have. So the question here is going to be how aggressively Yaacov wants to take this attack to the king over here. I would say that studying these positions when I have preparing for my own man versus machine match, and diving into the times I've played like Arena. If you don't have the Arena software, it allows you to just plug in and take on any engine you want. You can set the UCI. You can play custom positions on Chess.com if you just go to the Chess.com drills, and you can also plug in your own positions. But right now, the Stockfish 8 is the only engine you can play. It's the predetermined engine on Chess.com. So Arena is really cool because you can plug in any engine you want and try to practice it. So I've played some of these positions against Komodo, and pretty much you never don't want to be as aggressive as possible. It's hard because the more critical and the more dynamic you make the position, the more you increase your chances of a human blunder. But if I'm white here and black does something, there's like no reason for white not to be as aggressive as possible. Things like d4, and depending on what they do, I've seen variations where the best idea for white is to just continue to just rock forward and try to just bust open the position and create opportunities to expose the material odds and the weaknesses that you've been given. That's part of the fun here, right? So depending on what Yaakov does here, I think that the main thing we should see, we should be wanting to see, as we all root for the human being to have their best chance, is for Yaakov to be as aggressive as possible and to try to use his advantage early in the game. So, I'm going to check on the chat. The one nice thing about me not playing also gives me the ability to kind of stay in touch with all of you and engage and maybe have a little bit more of a back and forth during this show than I do when I'm the one playing. But okay, Komodo is thinking, and that's why we have not much else to go right now. Let's take a look into what our players are doing here. Komodo is, of course, prowling his way across the screen, gloating, basking. That's something lizards do, right? They bask. Lizards bask. I like to bask in the sun as well, but lizards definitely bask. So lizards are basking, and Yaakov is focusing in whatever that sort of room that looks like the vanity of a 13-year-old girl. The vanity, the vanity desk. Something's going on there. That's where Yaakov puts on his makeup. All right, so the computer plays bishop to b7. This is expected. It's the most natural square for the bishop, puts the bishop on the diagonal, and it's also probably the most challenging for white because you can't just ignore the e4 pawn and play a move like d4 anymore. So probably knight to c3 makes sense unless there's some other sort of tactical idea, but I would see no reason why Yaakov shouldn't just play knight to c3, and perhaps early and often. The main thing is that the longer you take in the opening, again, everyone remembers I was doing that. I was taking a long time in the opening, trying to give you guys insight into my thought process. But I think that hurt later on. So I would encourage Yaakov, as this match goes on, to play fast in the opening, trusting his human instincts, knowing that you can't really screw up the advantage that early. Although I say that, and I lost a game in 12 moves, right? As somebody in the Twitch chat was probably just about to remind me of that. So, okay, you can lose games very quickly against Komodo, but I think you should trust your instincts and be aggressive and not take too much time here. But okay, on that note, let's check in on the chat and see how everybody's doing here. What do we got here? We got some activity in the Chess TV chat. Obviously, Jakob reminding people, no tips, no nothing. That's, of course, right. If you are posting... if you're posting computer lines, we will get rid of you. That is just a fact. We are not interested in helping Yaakov in any way. But I want to give a shout out here, all the premium members here. Bad Axe 1999. Any idea on Komodo's hardware? Well, as we've said before, the Dragon is playing live from Larry Kaufman's den. As Larry keeps the beast on the chain. Larry is stoking the Dragon with the best hardware human money can buy. I've made fun of Larry before and said he's spent more than most people would ever spend on a house on his computer. But Larry indeed has confirmed that at the very least his computer is north of like $6-7 grand, I think. So, even with my exaggerations aside, Larry has put a lot of money into the hardware here. Komodo already weighing in at about 3,400 strength. It is hooked up to some serious CPUs, so I can confirm that. What else do we have being asked here? People are asking about that Komodo looks really scary. It does look really scary. Hope you guys are liking the GIFs and the hard work I put into preparing this show today. Having as much fun as we can. Tappa de Boy says that his Stockfish 8 says the best move in this position for white is to resign. Very funny. Danny speaks faster than you typing. Shouldn't that be okay? Shouldn't it be normal to speak? Oh, I see, because you were going to answer maybe the question about maybe somebody's question. Danny, will you try to come up with a few candidate moves that the international master is thinking of? Well, I mean, I kind of suggested already, right, that I think the most obvious move here is knight to c3, and I'm still going to be surprised if Yaakov doesn't just play knight c3, but maybe the other move is e5. So let's analyze this. One of the things that I find when I'm analyzing with the computers is they tend to suggest moves that are counterintuitive initially to humans, but then upon further review, you're like, oh wow, right? There's some insight there that is just pretty obviously interesting to consider. And one of the things I found in playing these types of positions where you're up a couple pawns and maybe have the initiative against the computer is how aggressive they are with the pawns in the center. So that's why before bishop b7, I was suggesting that Yaakov just needs to get a big center and try to go to town and open things up. And that makes me think that maybe e5 is interesting. It does take away the natural square for the knight, which can be a little irritating. Okay, so Yaakov does play knight to c3, as you can see here, the board directly. To my right, your left, depending on how you're looking at me. And I expected knight to c3. I think knight c3 is the most natural move, and okay, Komodo quickly plays e6. But I do believe that the faster white is aggressive in the center, the more aggressive white is, the best chance you have of exposing weaknesses along the most critical diagonal. And opening the position should make it harder for Komodo to kind of develop his way into a middle game where he can then out-Komodo you. He can outmaneuver you. So I think that there's several ways to do that. I mean, my instincts say here that d4 should be played, and even bishop to b4, if that move is coming to hit this, maybe you even just continue with things that we've talked about, d5. So GDog16 says that, e5 gives black the whole diagonal. That's absolutely true, and so let's even go back here. But again, I guess the point is that the question is, are you weighing the kind of dysfunction you might add to black's development? Also, you've opened up this diagonal. So just for kicks and giggles, I don't know. I mean, if e6 is played and d4 is played, natural threats start to become bishop to d3, where you don't even care about the g2 pawn hanging because you have queen h5 check. And even though those of you who are fans of the man versus machine match style, again, you can check out my games on YouTube or, of course, here in the video on demand section and Twitch. I had a very, very good start to that game that I lost quickly. And I actually had prepped by looking at that position and told myself, okay, I need to be aggressive and look to take advantage of the diagonals. So I don't know that I was on the wrong path of looking for some sort of aggressive thing. Then, I blundered into this thinking I even had the opportunity for a perpetual, and things went off the tracks. But, okay, again, I don't think that white can go wrong here. Yaakov is playing a solid approach here. He's developing his knight, grabbing a bit of a yawn there. So Yaakov is taking a little bit of a slower approach against the dragon at this point. Not going to be as aggressive in trying to expose the diagonal. One of the things about Yaakov's style is Yaakov is tactical when it serves him sort of like sneaky and tricky tactics, but he tends to be a very positional oriented guy. He likes opportunities to outmaneuver his opponents, especially in blitz. And I wonder if some of these advantages that really rely on early pressure being brought to the dragon might not favor him. Maybe he needs to. I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's a little bit too early to say that. And certainly, if you're plugging this position into any device you have at home, if you go to chess.com/analysis and plug this position into Stockfish, or if you have your own chess base or any software you have, there's no way white is not just still better here. So I'm not saying white isn't better, but I do tend to subscribe to the fact that white should be as aggressive as possible. And be ready on the edge of your seat tactically. Yaakov also has the advantage that I didn't have, which is he can just focus on playing here. He's not doing commentary while playing. So I would encourage him to be as aggressive as possible in this match, and we're going to see how that plays out over the next couple days. All right, so back to the analysis here. The Chess Kid says, you made it to 12 moves, Danny. I'm sure you played great. Again, I appreciate the sarcasm and the insults, but I was much, much better, and I believe I had achieved the biggest advantage you can get in that type of material odds before my blunder. So again, it's, I'm like the walking punchline, all right? I know that. I know I can't really say that, but I know that position is exactly one that I would try to take again against the beast. Against the beast. I just dropped my cap. I'm going to lean down here. Let's press the elevate to right. Ding. Hello. Goodbye. Oh, that actually put some work into my glutes there, Proper squat form. You know what I'm talking about when you get the glutes going. Yeah. You know what I'm saying. Yeah, proper squat form. So okay. Komodo's thinking now. One of the things I will remind you, anybody can go follow this game and try to be the top guesser. I'm curious how many of you might try to use Stockfish secretly and then try to guess and then be like, oh, like I'm just getting such a high percentage of guesses, right? No, but if you're not learning in that case, Guess the Move is supposed to be something where you really try to engage and apply critical thinking along with top player games. But even if you're using Stockfish for this particular type of match, I'm curious how that goes for you, because Komodo and Stockfish will play different moves, especially because remember, the normal time people give engines to think is not very much. Like you give it 30 seconds, maybe you give it a minute or two if you really want to get an idea. But the Komodo chess is hooked up to a supercomputer playing at the top of his game, like nearly 3,400, and this is a 45-minute game where Komodo has time to work through any potential depth issues that the computers have, where they initially think something that maybe a strong grandmaster thinks, oh, maybe that's not the best approach, right? They're always going to blunder less than humans. Computers are going to blunder less than humans because they're calculating at a higher level. Period. End of discussion. But those little gray areas that still exist for a human to evaluate something maybe slightly more accurate than a computer, like initially, they kind of go away when you give the computer a ton of time. So Komodo has so much time here and now Komodo's even down on time here, and I'm kind of shocked by that. So it makes it not so fun. So anyway, yeah, no, Tone Def loves that we're talking about Danny's glutes. I don't have any shame about losing Komodo, but then again, I don't have any shame when I lose to a 1200 either, so I'm not really the best meter of shame and how people should feel on Chess TV. So that, let's leave that out of it. Thank you for appreciating the Komodo gifts. People are digging them. Yeah, let's think about what's going on here. I think Larry is trying to coax an answer. Yes, my precious, right? Larry is kind of like Voldemort and what's the name of the snake? The name of the snake that he makes a Horcrux and then like Neville like chops his head off. Help me out here. What's the name? I definitely prefer a good wheat bread, a good wheat nut bread. Thank you for asking. And Nagini. Nagini's the snake name. Yeah, this is like Larry petting Nagini right now, petting an answer. Okay, so knight f6 is played. This is let's flip over to the analysis board here. So knight f6 is played. Again, the heat is being brought. And again, this is why I struggled with Yaakov's approach. I'm worried Yaakov is going to play d3 here. That's just like my honest worry. I feel like d3, even if the engine doesn't like try to play d5, which in a normal pawn chain, if you actually had all three pawns here, sorry, not here, but here, that's exactly what you would do, right? You would play d5, and on e5, you'd bring the knight back, and you'd have a French-type structure. I don't know that that's the best for the engine here, because when you're actually missing this base pawn, e6 is particularly weak, and suddenly things like knight to g5 become, like, weird and tactical. So I'm going to make a prediction and say that even if Yaakov played d3, I don't think the engine plays d5 because of e5, and even though that would normally be the best move in the pawn structure, we are playing with material odds, which means black has to be very careful. But my point is that even if Komodo doesn't play d5, I'm still not super psyched about Yaakov's position, because I believe if the dragon just plays like bishop e7 and gets cackled and takes a slow approach, the longer you go without bringing the heat to what is obviously a critical issue, okay, in the position for black, I think the better chance you give the stronger player of outplaying you. And that's from my own prep, which again, we can say that I didn't score very well. I put up a big 0-3 against Komodo in my mini match. Yaakov will have 4 chances in this match, by the way. But I just, oh, did he play d3? Okay, he played d3. So Yaakov is going to prove me wrong or not. Yaakov is going to go for his solid approach. I'm not surprised by this. I've already said that I think Yaakov is a very solid player. He wants to kind of ease his way into positions. Yaakov likes to be sort of on the level, feeling like he has the right strategy and a plan that he can kind of work. Again, I think that Yaakov is also a creature of habit. I'm gonna say all these things to him afterwards. Yaakov likes his repertoire. He likes to stick to positions that he knows well, and I don't know that these early advantages are going to be the best way for him to try to challenge the beast. So we'll see. I think he might do better in the long-term material advantage. I think when he's up a knight, or when he's up like the exchange, and it's less about the immediate, dynamism about the position, I think Yaakov will do better with longer-term material advantages. I feel feel like this one that requires more of an initiative might be a challenge for him. But okay, we're going to see. He played d3, and we'll see if I end up being right that the Komodo dragon works his way into a decent middle game. Yes, to answer the question of Scopulis and any others wondering, the dragon started down 2 pawns. This is a material odds match. Welcome to Man vs. Machine. Right above me, you see we have the legendary Yaacov Norowitz versus Komodo at material odds. This is this is a regular thing that we'd like to do here on Chess.com because people seem to like it. I think it plugs us all into like the end of the world, the apocalypse that's coming. Hopefully not by the weather that is currently hitting everywhere. And best thoughts, of course, to those in Florida and Houston and everywhere. And the earthquake in Mexico, man, like the weather, it's just crazy, right? The earth is flexing its muscles these days, Mother Nature. But the real end of the world is coming when Skynet becomes self-aware. We all know that. As soon as Google and Komodo have a baby, what's going to happen is something like this, and it's going to get, you don't want to be there. I mean, this is the kind of thing that's going to happen as soon as they become self-aware. So that's what these matches are. Thanks for joining us, whether you be with us on Twitch or Chess.com TV. Appreciate it. Ultra true fact about Danny number 2. Danny has a workout mixtape that is just 867 to 5,309 Jenny on loop for 45 minutes. Have you guys ever done the Sally workout where you do Sally to either push-ups or squats? Like, know that song? Bring Sally up, bring Sally down. That's a tough workout. That's a fun one. It is true that when I'm commentating, I do tend to spend more time commentating than I do focusing on the game. I am an entertainer first. For the record, I did just predict that move by Komodo. I said that I thought Komodo would not play d5 because I didn't think strategically. I know people have said strategically is not a word, but it actually is a word, for the record. I've been criticized for using that word at times, but it actually is in the dictionary. It's just not considered maybe the most proper use of the term strategic or applying proper strategy. But I'm going to use strategically today. And if you don't like it, go somewhere else. Okay, hashtag brought the hammer down. Okay, I predicted the Komodo would play bishop e7 because I think the Komodo wants to get castled. And once that king is out of danger, you have lost a potentially significant portion of your advantage to start, which is the weak light square. So again, I am being openly critical because I looked at these positions with myself before I lost that game in 12 moves, and I believe that White's best approach is the one I took, something much more dynamic and pushing toward the king side with reckless abandonment on the light squares. I believe that once Black gets castled, you know what's possible? Let's say White plays like here, or knowing Yaakov, he might even play g3, okay? The problem with this is if you haven't taken advantage of the king, everybody pay attention to what I'm saying here. Let's bring the chat back to chess. The f-file actually becomes a potential advantage for Black because the open rook is something that you're just not going to see every day that early in the game. Now, okay, is a pawn a pawn? A pawn is a pawn. And Komodo is still down that pawn. But when you combine that with the aggressive f-file and the bishop on this diagonal, okay, 2 pieces are more active in the position than they almost ever are in an early game, okay? So the issue that I've had as I've looked into these material odds, and I hope one day I actually may be an expert on this. I can't claim to be an expert on these now because all I do is lose to Komodo for a living. But I don't think that this is how White wants to play these positions. And so, did I not just predict that Yaakov was going to play g3? You know why? Because this is Yaakov's repertoire. Yaakov's repertoire is I'm going to play knight f3 and some version of g3 and c4, and then I'm going to try to beat you in boulder blitz. That is staple Yaacov Norowitz. I love him to death, okay? I hope he knows that. Yaakov and I actually are pretty decent friends. We chatted beforehand, and that's what this show's about. We're going to talk to Yaakov afterwards about whether or not he feels that his preconceived kind of bias toward a repertoire that he feels comfortable with maybe affected his approach here, and I'm going to bet the answer is yes. And again, because I'm able to predict these moves, and I know what he's playing, and I just don't know that it's going to lead us to the kind of aggressive attack that White needs. Not to say, again, plug this position in to the computer right now. Plug it in. White is still better. Don't get me wrong. White's up 2 pawns. But I promise you the advantage right now, if you let Komodo think, is less now than it was when the position started, according to Komodo, because I don't believe that this non-aggressive approach is the best way to go after the king. So, this is going to be fun. Yaakov may have just made sure that our Chess TV show was sponsored by Bud Light. Yeah, I think Yaakov may have pulled a Michael Bay there and squeezed some subliminal advertising into the latest Transformers movie. Can we all just take a collective moment and vomit together about Michael Bay and the director that he has become? If you have not seen the latest Transformers, the last 2 movies with Mark Wahlberg, you are a better human being for it, okay? I had to go see these movies because I have young boys. And it is just absolute trash, right? I mean, the amount of, like, advertising every moment, right? Where, like, Mark Wahlberg, like, they break into a Bud Light truck and he, like, drinks a sip of beer in the middle of the, it's just like I don't know why. I guess I've just crossed the line where I couldn't take it. I couldn't take it. I don't have a problem with advertising when the sponsor is coming out very clearly in support of something in exchange for the mentions they get. But when it's squeezed in this way, it just, I don't know, it just felt so manipulative. Right, and as Kirkwood says, Michael Bay makes movies specifically for teenage boys, and he's good at that, I guess. Maybe one day we'll get a little drunk chess going. It's not really our style on Chess TV. The Chess Bros do it well on their channel. We like to keep things family PG. But we do have this match coming up, of course, with Ben and Simon Williams, where we will not be having a PG experience. But anyway, Drunk History, one of my favorite shows. I completely disagree. Chess.com does not endorse alcoholism. That's not someone drinking a beer that's not what that is. So, thank you for looking for the most negative possible angle. But advertising in the Transformers movies is the least bad thing about that. And maybe, I don't know. But I didn't. I actually got somebody else to take them to the latest one. I saw the previous one with Mark Wahlberg, who's just trying to protect his daughter. I'm just trying to protect my daughter, all right? Come look at this. I found a Transformer in the junkyard. And now I got to go try and protect my daughter. Thank you. I'm Mark Wahlberg. Checking in on the Chess TV chat, which is taking a turn into discussing why teenage boys are strange, so maybe I'll avoid that. Okay, so the game continues. Where are we at? Yaakov is going to play castles here. Black played knight to c6. So again, like I don't dislike Yaakov's position as white. He's up 2 pawns, and any human being evaluation tells me, oh, okay, this is a good game for white. But I just don't think this is the most accurate way to take advantage of these weaknesses, and I stand by that. And I think that because just knowing how good Komodo is, as this game reaches the middle game and into more critical moments, it worries me that white didn't have the chance to increase and maybe press down a little earlier. That's all. So, anyway, but these are some longer games. This is not as fast-paced as we normally have on Chess TV, Speed Chess Championships. This is even longer than like the Pro Chess League. So we got to kind of pace ourselves today before we dive into too much more. All right. So what's the deal now? Now that black is ready to castle, I'm going to make a prediction that Komodo might be considering d5 here. Because we're no longer in a position where if e5 comes and the knight goes to d7, knight to g5 is no longer possible. I'm pretty sure you could just take it. Although actually, okay, you may get some variations like Chekaruski and perhaps something like this, but I don't think this is actually what Jakob will want, because maybe Komodo wins one of the pawns back. Maybe takes this way so that the knight guards f6. So I'm predicting that e5 is no longer as big of a deal, right? If knight to g5 is not just like really, really awkward for black to deal with because of the e6 pawn, then Komodo might play d5. Because if e5 knight d7, and let's say Yaakov has to play like some normal defensive move of the pawn, maybe bishop f4, rook e1, now black can get castled. He's established a pretty decent pawn center. He's got the f-file. And the e5 pawn is a target. So I'm being biased in the perspective that from all, normal accounts, you would still think white is a little better here. You still have 2 pawns. But I don't know. I feel like it's a solid plan for Komodo, and maybe he'll go for it. Okay, no. So he plays queen to c7. Flexibility. This prevents the move e5. That's what queen to c7 does. It also, I mentioned the word flexibility because it opens up the opportunity to castle long or short. Okay. So maybe that's partly what Komodo was thinking here. And And what else do we have? White has to come up with a plan. So now is where the potential effects of Yaakov's slower approach might be coming into play here, as Larry pets Nagini. Larry pets Komodo and says, yes, you have done well. Yaakov is he has to develop a plan that is to his liking. And what's a long-term plan that we might suggest for Yaakov here? One, we might suggest that he gets some coffee instead of a Bud Light if he's so tired. But what's the right approach? Moves like knight to b5 are just a random tempo that doesn't do you anything. So for those of you that are considering a single queen tempo, no bueno. If you're looking to follow the game and play along with Guess the Move, I'm going to go ahead and share a link to the game in the Chess TV chat. So there you go. You can do that. I think I can also share a link in the Twitch chat. So if you're looking to follow the game directly in the live server, go ahead and log on and you can play Guess the Move with yourself. What's a good plan here for White? The problem is the way I see the best plan here is always coming back to moves like d4. I feel like White needs to open up the position. And this may not be the worst idea. This is a transposition into some sort of kind of semi-open Sicilian. And despite my criticisms of Jakob's kind of slower approach, I do think the one thing you also have to remember when you're up material is you still haven't blown anything in the big picture. Maybe Jakob hasn't gotten the best type of position to take advantage of the king. Maybe Jakob is not in the best position to get an attack on the light squares, but he's up 2 pawns. So, you have the luxury of kind of backtracking on a plan. When you have that kind of concrete edge in chess, you can change directions and maybe try to simplify. So maybe d3 was a waste of tempo if you play d4, but I tend to think d4 is the best, most natural move here. I do. I think White should go back to opening the center and use his extra pawns to his advantages by kind of offering some pawn trades and see if Komodo is willing to simplify out the position. I don't like moves like bishop f4 because I think every tempo might be precious. It's interesting because if you induce e5 and then play bishop g5, do you not have a plan to eliminate this knight and then go pony popping? Don't be popping ponies on this show, okay? It's a PG show. If you go pony popping and you put a pony on d5, you might have some nice things to squeeze out for the rest of the game. So that's an idea. Bishop f4 is an idea solely with the idea of inducing e5 to try to relocate and go after the d5 square. So that's a candidate move on my mind. d4, opening the position, getting back to the roots of, I think, how you take advantage of being up 2 pawns now that you've lost your chance to just be aggressive on the light squares, is by trading pawns. What are the tips that we learned as beginner chess players? When you're up pieces, trade pieces. When you're up pawns, trade pawns, right? That's the best way to have those advantages sort of come to light, right? And as more of them come off the board, it becomes like right now, if a newcomer's coming to the Chess TV show right now or at Twitch TV/chess, they may not even immediately notice that black is just down 2 pawns. Like optically, it doesn't just pop off the board, right? You take a second look and then you realize it. But the point is, as you trade pawns and open up the position, it becomes more and more obvious that pawns are separated and that there's open weaknesses. And so that's true both optically and from like a concrete material perspective. So that's a good piece of advice if you've never heard that. I mean, if you're up pawns, trade pawns. If you're up pieces, trade pieces. So I think d4 and bishop f4 are both decent candidate moves. Yaakov thinks it's worthy thinking. h4 is another interesting move if you're trying to put yourself in a position to attack on the king side should they castle. It's like a King's Indian attack idea. I don't like traditional King's Indian ideas of moving the knight and trying for f4 here. I just feel like it's a little bit backwards, and I don't want to give up this square to the knight on c6, sort of being unchallenged. So these are my instincts, my critical thought process, if it's helpful. I want to thank everyone who's tuning in right now, joining us on both Twitch and Chess.com TV. Gonzo Chess says I talked myself into bishop f4. Maybe I do. Maybe I did. Yeah. I mean, I do like bishop f4 upon a second look. Somebody just mentioned bishop f4. What if bishop d6? Glad you asked, because that's a blunder. Bishop f4. Bishop d6 now allows the knight b5 fork, which would hit both the queen and the bishop, and black would be losing. So that's one reason why bishop f4 is interesting, because e5 is probably... I mean, if you play d6... Is that really a good idea? First of all, maybe white even has some tacticos here. Tacticos. Don't you forget about your tactics. Say hello to my little friend. Say hello to my little friend. Knight takes e5. Chop, chop, takes it. And he's like, oh yeah, right, I've won your light square bishop and I'm going to ruin your right to castle in just like 1 little second here. So, actually, I think that bishop to f4 leaves black with a couple options. Probably the best one is to maybe just move the queen. Okay, bishop d6 we've eliminated. d6, we say hello to my little friend. I like this move a lot, actually. I like it a lot. And that's exactly the kind of simplification of the pawns. I've been touting on that and opening the position that white would like. So it makes me think that maybe Komodo's plan would just be to lose a tempo with the lady, which is not a bad thing. Queen to b6 or queen to d8 is okay. As Tim08156 just pointed out, queen d8 is probably fine. We do have a Spanish Danny. There's always been a little Spanish inside of Danny. Everyone likes a small little Spanish in them. No, we've got a lot of whatever accents you want. I'm fluent in more than 72 different accents. I just don't perform all of them all the time. Anyway, so I don't know. I'd be interested to see. Okay, Yaakov goes bishop f4. We're gonna find out. Okay, so Yaakov is bringing the noise. The noise is being brought in, right? Oh, Komodo's gonna challenge our ideas. Bishop g5, baby girl, hit it. Eliminate. Pop a pony. Me like it. I do. I do. How much does Yaakov likey? Yaakov isn't sure how much he likes it. He likes it. He is likey. Komodo is basking. He's basking in the sun. Bask. I think this is working out for Jakob. Maybe this positional approach has got a little more to it. Okay, he quickly plays bishop g5, and I see no reason not to. And Komodo has a critical question to answer. How am I dealing with the d5 square? Is he going to play knight to d4? It's possible. So if Komodo plays knight d4, but let's say we just get a massive trade, and we trade here, how does Jakob ever lose this position? I don't think he does. If you put a knight on d5, and this knight is traded, you now have an opposite colored bishop dynamic, and you're up 2 pawns to go with it. The only weakness on the board to speak of is the c2 pawn, but I think you'll take that. So I am already happy to be white here, and already eating my words in regards to Jakob's slower positional approach not being the best one. I mean, I have a hard time seeing this knight not getting traded. I mean, for my money, Komodo should... Again, this is where the humans can't interfere, right? As much as Larry would like to interfere and give his Komodo dragon a little piece of positional human advice, he's not allowed to tell him, hey, don't play a positional move e5, not because it's not the best, but because it eliminates all of black's winning chances. So now the engine has played e5 and knight to d4, but if I'm doing my math right, Jakob is just going to trade and take the draw, I would bet. First of all, I know that Jakob has a bet with an unnamed Chess.com staff member about him losing every game here. So Jakob is already getting paid to do this match, And if he doesn't lose a game, he's making money on the side. So Jakob's got, he's got dual action here, right? The odds are in his favor. So maybe he should. I don't know. I have a really hard time not loving white here, and that's partly my bias of losing all the games I did. I would have loved to have drawn just one, but literally, white can take on f6, and I don't care what order you do, pop a pony into d5, and white is never going to lose this game. We are about to see Komodo taking an approach that again, like, I don't think if a human knew he's 3,400, that's what I'm saying. If a human could think like this, the dragon can't. If a human could think, I'm 3,400, I'm a lot better than this guy, I'm not going to play e5 and basically go into a forced draw, which is what this is. I mean, white can never lose this. I would play any other move and leave the dynamic tension, but Komodo's thinking about it as like a math puzzle. He's like, oh, like, this is good because I'm currently down minus 1.4 whatever, 1.5 whatever, and if I go for this, I have good drawing chances. So again, depends on your goals, but I don't see Yaacov losing this game anymore. I really don't. I think he's going to be choosing pleasantly, and we see him in the chat. He says he's going to get rid of the knight, have an extra light square, and hope to prey on his dark square bishop, and hope he doesn't crush me. I don't think Yaacov is going to get crushed anymore. I think he had a really nice approach, and I think bishop f4 inducing this move by the dragon to play e5 was a good thing. Yeah, I don't think white can ever lose this. Yeah. Do not believe white can lose this. I don't think Komodo is too afraid to take risks, Tone Deaf. It's one of the only flaws of thinking like a computer. There's no human dynamic of like, I'm better than this guy. I'm just going to let the position remain tactical and open with tension. The chances of my opponent being able to keep with me under time pressure or something, that's not going to happen, right? That's the way a human would want to apply its thinking to the engine. How do we ever get the engines to think like that? You would probably have to increase the depth. You would probably have to basically, sort of mess with the algorithm so that they hate draws, and get the depth to the point where it can see that it's going to be a draw at best for it, and then it makes like an emotional human decision and says, okay, mathematically this is the best thing for me to do, but I can't win, and I have this sort of like unbalanced algorithm that tells me don't go for things where I don't have winning chances. That would be the only way to sort of screw with the code, right? To get the engine not to take this approach. But currently, I'm liking Yaakov's chances. So Pete is saying that the Komodo does have some level of contempt, which is a term the engines have for it doesn't want draws. And I already know that to be true because I've talked with Larry. Larry does have the computer set up to not be thrilled about draws, but you can only do so much, right? You can't make it ignore a perpetual check if it's down +7. It's going to take the draw, right? So there is a balance there, and I think that in this case, the engine doesn't really see that what he's going for is a position where he has no winning chances. So Yaacov is taking his time as he should, but okay, he does exactly what I said he was going to do. Yaacov is going to take on f6. I don't care how Komodo takes back. He's going to take on d4 or play knight d5 first. It doesn't really matter. And then Yaacov can't lose this game. So I know Larry is frustrated. Did you see his hand here? Larry's hand just got a little more aggressive. He's now pushing a little bit harder on. I mean, it's like, Larry, be nice to Komodo, right? I mean, maybe if you let him out and took him for walks every once in a while, he'd be happier, Larry. Why don't you do something more than just petting him, right? This dragon seems happy. Look at this dragon, right? I think this is a you problem, Larry. Before you go blame Komodo, for the first time in my life, I'm defending the animal. Maybe you should let Komodo out a little more and change the way he thinks about these drawn positions, and then he'll be better. But all right. Anyway, so this is already I'm excited for Yaacov in this match. It makes me excited because I'm not going to be watching myself go 0-3. I'm going to be watching somebody else do better. So that's good. What were the odds to start? Fraggy27 asked. We can actually give you the fen. Matt, why don't you paste the fen for everybody so they know exactly the fen that we had to start? It was missing an f7 and a b7 pawn. That was the fen. I can go grab the fen for you as well. because that's what I do here for my Chess.com comrades. I help you out. I help out all of my Chess.com comrades who ask these questions. Welcome to the show. Okay, so for those of you wondering in Twitch, this is the Fen that started the game and Chess.com TV. So there you go. Go play it yourself. You know that you can practice these positions on Chess.com. You can pretty much practice. I wonder if I can open that up without messing up the the capture too bad. Let's try it. Let's try this. See if we can see this guy. Okay. No, we cannot do this. So when you do a oh, I can. Cool. So you can actually paste your own Fen. If you go to just chess.com/playcomputer or drills or whatever, you can actually play anything you want, and you can set the difficulty to be as hard as you want. So that's just a fun little fact. If you're interested in playing some of these odds, you can also just go to the drills page, and we have a whole bunch of like pre-selected like imbalances and odds and stuff. This odds game is kind of fun, especially for beginners who are looking to practice some positions, just like with an extra queen against the engine. So if you've never used the drills tool, it's something we've had for a long time. And one of the things about our old site is it really didn't highlight our drills. We've had these computer practice drills since before anybody, since like long ago. It was one of the first features that David Pruce and I, if people remember, David and I developed. But again, it was sort of hidden and tucked away. Nobody even knew about it. So we've actually really revamped the drills. So if you want to give some a try, it gives you an orange check mark when you've tried it. You can play against the computer. So you can plug in your own position against the computer. You can plug in the position that Yaakov is taking on right now. You can do whatever you want. So if you're interested, there you go. I've just given you the Fen, and you're welcome. So, all right, Komodo takes back. Yaakov is just, I mean, look at Yaakov. Yaakov is confident right now. He needs a new bedroom set. Ooh, look at that. Yaakov wants more. Yaakov not satisfied. Yaakov hungry. Yaakov hangry. Yaakov want more. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I probably just would have like skadoodle-doodled and just take the draw. I mean, I'm gonna be totally honest right now. I'm gonna wear my my heart on my shoulder. I would have had no shame in just making a capture and popping a pony. And again, like this is a forced move. You can't leave that knight on d5. It's a beast. And White's not going to lose this game. It's just not going to happen. So I probably would have gone for that. Yaakov, what he's saying is this. He's saying he's better. So he's going to put the knight on d5. And the difference is, when this trade happens, Yaakov wants to kick this knight out and then put this knight on either c4 and e4 and have a little more of a chance to win. So Yaakov is trying to, he's ultimately what Yaakov is trying to do is he'd really like to trade this knight for this bishop and have a good knight versus a bad bishop on the board. You know, so like how does that happen in the dream scenario? Somehow he kicks this knight out and it gets traded for this. Then he supports this pawn by pushing it to c4 so that pawn can't go anywhere. And then you put that pony on e4, and that's also a position that White can't lose, but it has more winning chances, right? Because rather than in the other line we were talking about where you have just purely opposite colored bishops, Here, White can't lose against Komodo. It's exactly the kind of thing a human can play safely. But probably White can't win this either, especially against such a strong beast. Opposite code bishops can't challenge each other, and you're really not going anywhere. If Yaakov ends up with a good knight on either one of these squares, and that's exactly the line I said was going to happen. If Yaakov ends up with a good knight against a bad bishop, he has winning chances there, like legit winning chances. And it's exactly the kind of safe winning chances that a human can squeeze against an engine without worrying too much about making tactical blunders, right? So despite my initial criticisms about Yaakov's slow approach and him not being aggressive, if you're just joining us, I'm, being totally honest, I was not a huge fan of Yaakov not maybe being more aggressive. And trying to go for something early and often against the light squares. He kind of just took a slow, simple approach here, played a position that he's comfortable with g3. This is right up Yaakov's opening repertoire. And then when he had the opportunity, played bishop f4 with tempo. Queen to c7, maybe in hindsight, not the best move by Komodo. I know it's hard to say that or criticize the computer. Because even though, again, we can't really say that the dragon is like worse now than he was to start, right? I mean, I don't think the dragon is in as much trouble as he could be if Jakob takes an aggressive approach, like I said. But I really like Jakob's chances from a human being perspective because I don't see him losing this. I feel like the opposite code bishops and the domination of the light squares is going to be enough for Jakob to be happy. And if Jakob's happy, I'm happy. You know, that's just, I mean, that's the truth. So, all right. Danny, why is the computer called Komodo? Well, you can ask Larry Kaufman. Larry, the mythical hand that runs the engine. The mythical hand that runs the engine named it. But I think Komodo dragons are, well, they're well known for doing stuff like this. Right? Am I allowed to show this on Chess TV? This doesn't seem PG. So the engines are known for being better than humans, but Komodo is known for strangling and ravaging its opponents. And I believe Larry first developed Komodo with the idea of having a more positionally minded engine, an engine that plays, very well in terms of, maneuvering plans and long-term positional strategies. Komodo, for my money, is the best engine in terms of to study with as a human being because of that approach, because of its sort of, it really understands piece activity and long-term positional placement. So that sort of thing is why he takes the approach he does, because Komodo is saying, I like this position, Danny. I got a knight in the center. I got a rook on the b file. I got obstacle bishops. Komodo is happy with black. And I'm saying from a human being perspective, I feel like Jakob has pretty good chances here because it's obstacle bishops, and I don't think he has a lot of losing chances. We'll see if I'm wrong. Again, I'm worried that Jakob didn't trade the knights here. If you just go for the attack, let's go back to the analysis. If you just go for the attack and this knight moves, it may find itself on d6 where it kind of sits in front of the pawn. Even like this, where Jakob will have another chance at going for the obstacle bishop ending, but I don't think this is any better than it would have been before. Still, I think, white doesn't really have many losing chances in this position. But I don't know. Maybe Jakob will wish he made that trade. I guess in hindsight, I understand even further why Jakob didn't do it, because the other way to think about it is that oops, I'm analyzing on the wrong board here. Sorry about that. The other way to think about it is that if Jakob had made this trade, as we said, the one thing that black would get is the c file, right? We talked about that c2 pawn becoming a backward pawn. So I guess in this case, if he does, let's say he plays c3 and then he has to defend this pawn, I don't know quite how, and eventually puts a knight on c4, e4. Those are two very safe outpost squares. If something like this happens, right, let's just say something like this happens and the trade happens anyway, you have to kind of commend Jakob for his patience because he didn't trade on d4 earlier and give black this open c file, right? So he's managing to get that same sort of opposite code bishop dynamic with very little losing chances and not giving Komodo anything that the dragon would like. So it's interesting. I see people like Endgame Attack, the chat for the game, saying that he thinks black is already winning. I don't think that's true. John H.S. frustrated about his wrong guesses in the game, but so what cue do I need? Why is stockfish called stockfish? I don't know. Is it a play? I remember there was rybka, right? Rybka means fish in Russian, if I remember correctly. Rybka was like an older engine that's no longer really around, and then Stockfish came along as like the first kind of open source engine. I don't know why Stockfish is called Stockfish. I don't really know why Komodo is called Komodo, but I know that the Komodo dragon being the insane dangerous animal. I mean, Komodos are vicious creatures. They're vicious. They really are. They eat their own young. One of the first thing Komodo dragon babies are born knowing how to do is to run up a tree away from their mother so that mommy doesn't eat them. That's a fact. Okay, so Komodos they're not the nicest creatures on the planet. This is true. We have these questions coming our way. All right. How's Jakob doing? Jakob is scratching the old beard. Yaacov is scratching the old beard, and Komodo is basking. Basking in the sun, relaxing. And he just needs some R&R. I could use some R&R. I've been doing a lot of Chess TV commentary lately. Rosker21 says his mom tried to do the same thing. You know what? If your mom tried to eat you, buddy, that's lifelong therapy. You know, we've all got issues with our moms until we don't, or not, right? Mothers give us life. You know, some people have mommy issues, some people have daddy issues. People get issues, right? But if your mom tried to eat you, those are some real world issues, right? That's not like, you know, I couldn't find mom for 2 minutes at Disneyland, right? That's like some serious stuff. So there you go. If Tataboy made an engine, he'd call it Honey Badger Chess. That's a great name. Maybe somebody shouldn't. Maybe just the Badger, Honey Badger. Honey Badger would be, and Honey Badger don't care. Honey Badger doesn't give a bleep. Honey Badger takes what it wants when it wants. As everybody knows, the Honey Badger is up there with Komodo as far as just like beastly animals, right? So I could get behind a Honey Badger name for an engine. Faux show. Danny, can you sing? A lot of people don't like when I sing, but thanks for asking in the Chess TV chat. Juan Carlos 123 wants to know why Danny is called Danny. Well, actually, my legal birth name is Daniel, but as I joke, only my mother really calls me Daniel, or at least she did. Rest her soul. The Daniel is, although as I'm getting older, people call me Dan. Like, I think it's like my brothers and sisters when they have kids, they're like, oh, Uncle Dan, or whatever. It's just weird. People call you Dan as you get older, but I don't know why people call me Dan. What would Uncle Yermo say about Komodo? He'd say, well, the beginning of chess engines. Now, let me tell you the history here. Now, Danny Wrench on Chess.com. Well, people think when I'm doing Uncle Sasha, I am doing Uncle Yermo. No, Uncle Sasha is very different. It's almost slight Ukrainian accent. But okay, like Uncle Yermo is very... Okay, hold on. Yermo is... Well, now, Danny, we have this World Cup highlights here. Magnus Carlsen. Okay, in 1972... when Viktor Korchnoi played the Sicilian Dragon. This is Uncle Yermo. Vishnu, you want me to respond to you. What do you want me to say? What did you ask me, Vishnu, that you are asking that I respond to? Okay. Oh, okay, he has a real chess question. Why do I think only white can win? Okay, that's a good question. Let me explain this. Let me dive in here. Uncle Sasha give you that advice for you. Okay. So, first of all, there's a dynamic whenever you have opposite coded bishops that a lot of positions become harder to win for both sides in the endgame because the minors are not able to challenge each other. So what ends up happening is if one side gets a complete blockade all on the dark squares and the other side pawns are locked on light squares, not only are the pawns locked, but you don't even have that tension where a bishop could maybe gang up on the same color and try to make a trade or build up on the same color pawn, because you don't have the same color bishop. So I already want to clarify that white and black both have better drawing chances in opposite code bishop endgames, right? So white, if you're trying to win, maybe you have less winning chances than you would normally have often because of this opportunity to create blockades on a particular color complex. So if you don't understand the basics about opposite code bishops, that's why you hear commentators or grandmasters say the opposite code bishops, you know, that the nature of an opposite code bishop position is that the long term can hold less winning chances. That's not to say that you can't try to win, and that some of those endgames aren't won, but usually it takes something else happening, you know, some other sort of dynamic aspect of the position. You have a much more active king, or, you know, you get connected pass pawns, not just a single pass pawn. Usually you need help if you're going to win opposite code bishop ending besides just a pawn or two. There are even some opposite code bishop endings where you're up 3 pawns and you can't win. So you have to clarify that first. That's what's going on with this. So if you embrace that the opposite code bishop dynamic factor here, okay, makes this position harder to win for both, then you say white is up 2 pawns, right? So white's up 2 pawns, obstacle bishop position, and if anything, white can put a knight on one of these squares, where probably the best opportunity for black is just to trade off the knights. Keeping a knight on the board just to avoid the trade is going to mean putting it on a more passive square. So the reason I say white is the only one who can win here is because white has no long-term targets on the dark squares. Right now we have 2 pawns on the dark squares. Neither one of them is backward. What's a backward pawn, you ask? Let me explain that on the analysis board here. Let's say that I'm just going to do silly moves to point out what a backward pawn is because some people don't know that language. You got to know the semantics of chess. So as Komodo plays g6 over here on the real game, you can focus over here on the analysis board as I say that a backward pawn is a pawn that can't move forward without being captured. Okay, it can't move forward twice because of en passant, and it can't move forward once. Now here, this is not the weakest backward pawn because white could move that pawn and then make a trade. But the point is, if you have long-term backward pawns on the same color as your enemy's bishop, that's a weakness to be aware of in your own games. So if you're looking for some chess tips, that's important, right? Because if you have long-term backward pawns on the same color as your opponent's bishop, and let's say you didn't have the opportunity to trade it, that's a weakness that your opponent can keep in their eye long-term and try to sneakily maneuver around it and gang up on it. Also, if it's on an open file, rooks can double themselves, and now you've got 2 rooks aiming against a pawn. So those factors are not present in this position. Yaacov has no long-term weaknesses on the same color as black's bishop. Yaacov has no long-term positional weaknesses to speak of, period, right? He's up 2 pawns in an opposite colored bishop ending. So what grandmasters would call that, it's called playing for 2 results, where basically white's the only one who can win, and worst case scenario, it's a draw. Because black can't win a position when he's down 2 pawns in a position where he can't even challenge the enemy bishop. These guys are like ships in the night. They're just dancing. They just dance around each other. There's no opportunity for them to, face each other head to head. And that makes it very hard to lose. So there you go. Hopefully that answers your question, Vishnu, as far as why I made that kind of bold statement saying white's the only one who can win. That's why, right? Short of Yaacov getting under time pressure, the other factor we always have to remember is that this is a game, not a science. So even though everything I just said is true, and you can take whatever tips you want for your own chess games in terms of how you evaluate things, but remember it's a game. And in a game, people make mistakes, right? It's not a perfect science. So the only way I'm really wrong here is if Yaacov somehow gets himself under a whole bunch of time pressure, which we can see here, he's got 16 minutes and 48 seconds. So if Yaacov gets under time pressure and then makes a blunder, stranger things have happened. That would be how white loses this game. But it's also an increment, and I think Yaacov is focused. I think he knows that he needs to avoid time pressure as much as possible. Someone needs to invent me like a 2-minute long GIF so we don't see Komodo doing the same basking position. Like I need 2 full minutes of the dragon doing something, 2 full minutes of just... Maybe when Mike goes to the Isle of Man for our tournament coming up, we need someone to make a note of it. Let's get Mike to take some real video of the Komodo dragon that we can turn into a GIF that's like 5 minutes long. This would be cool, duh? Okay. What happened in the World Cup today? Everybody, can you guys let me know in chat? I missed it. Did my boy? MVL. MVL. Say it with me. MVL. MVL. We want MVL to go all the way May. All the way May to make a League of Their Own reference that nobody saw coming. A lot of chat. The Chess TV chat's very busy. I'm having a hard time keeping track of all the things. Danny said, Jay Spickler in the chat, Spitcher says, just slow the clip way down. That might be weird. That might be weird, Yeah, you can get Stockfish for free. I don't think you can get Komodo for free. I think Komodo is a purchasable engine. I do not know everything, but I think I know that. I get free Komodo from my relationship with this guy, the guy with the crazy hand who is like going to tanning beds or something. He gets very perfectly manicured fingers. No, but you can buy Komodo, and you should. It's worth it. Komodo is the best engine out there. All right. Well, again, I like where Yaakov's headed here. I know Larry is probably frustrated, but right now he's probably telling Komodo, we'll get him next time, my precious. We'll get him next time because we are not going to win this game. So we'll see. What is Yaacov thinking about now? Maybe Yaacov wants to go all in. Yaacov can literally, if he wants, he can play like B3 and C4 and offer a draw. I mean, he's already been super successful in my eyes because I went 0-3. So I'm already happy for Yaacov. And if he wants, if this were a human game and Yaacov was playing any sort of human that he wanted to be, believe me, Yaacov can still play for a win because everything I just said about the obstacle bishop ending and that they can't challenge each other and it's a draw is the opposite in the middle game. And I like this move king g2 because what Yaacov is going to do is he wants to play h4 and rook h1 and then h5 because everything that's true about the obstacle bishops in the endgame that make them sort of draw-ish makes them even more dangerous in attacking middle games. Because what happens is this. Let's say Komodo does something on the analysis board, and we play h4. And let's say something, I just want to make moves here to kind of prove the point. d6, and we get h5. The point is, if the attack becomes all about the light squares here, not only is this bishop unable to defend those squares, but he's really unable to come up with any play that's useful for defending, right? You end up trying to keep it closed on the dark squares and just praying that there's no way for your opponent, to perform surgery here and wiggle his way in on the light square. So, I don't know how aggressive Yaacov is going to choose to be, but I hope he goes for it because I think even if that gets a little bit more dynamic and he opens up his king, I still think he's playing for two results. I think he can only win, and if it doesn't work out, I have a hard time seeing it backfiring that quickly. He's not going to lose the obstacle bishop drawing chances. And I like moves for white, on this sort of thing. I like h4. You play queen to g4, you play rook to h1. Maybe you bring the other rook over to f1 just to guard the f2 pawn for prophylaxis, defensive mindedness. You play h5, and you start to pry open this king. And again, as I said, endgame obstacle bishop advantages tend to be a little watered down, harder to win because of the blockade opportunity, because they can't challenge each other. Middle game attacking chances tend to go up. Normally you would say that an attack with just a single minor is not that dangerous against another minor. But when it's obstacle bishops and the other bishop is a ship in the night who's powerless to fire back, you might go for it. So I hope that Yaacov plays h4. He's played king to g2, and now Komodo really needs to have a think. And again, I think Larry's nervous about this game. I think this is the kind of game that makes Larry, despite being surrounded by $10,000 of ridiculously unnecessary hardware, supercomputing power, I think he's a little nervous here. So let's see what Komodo comes up with. For now, I'm going to check in on the chat. GM Asmai Parashvili. I'm going to guess you're not actually Asmai Parashvili, but okay. Your favorite opening is probably the Poison Pawn Najdorf Gypsy variation, where black literally pilfers all white's pawns. No, actually. The Poison Pawn for black, I never really had the guts to play Poison Pawn openings consistently. I was never a Poison Pawn player. They get 15 seconds for every move, GM Asmai Parashvili, who's asking about the time, but they do not get another time control. There's no reach move 40, and they get more time. But look at Yaacov. Here he goes, baby. This is what we want, everybody. This is what we want. We want to see the gloves come off, and we want to see the attack taken home over here on the H-file. And I still think Yaacov only has winning chances here, not really any losing chances. I'm just some guy answered, or he wanted to know what the material odds were. Whiskery Ant, thank you for answering him. Yeah, we shared the Fen earlier. I'll share the Fen again for you. So if you're actually curious or if you want to go practice it yourself at Chess.com, you can do that. Yeah, so I just posted again, and so did vSimbot. Thank you for that. Okay, here we go. We got H5. Now, this makes sense. This makes sense for the engine, everybody, because everything I highlighted about the coming threat of H5 was a real... I mean, again, if you just sat there, this is not Happy Town. You're creating a situation where the light squares are potentially really, really weak. The risk of H5 is you permanently put pawns on the squares of your opponent's bishop, which makes your bishop powerless to defend and gives them targets. But okay, at least Komodo is really calling white's bluff here, because now the only real way to get aggressive and go after these pawns is to start to risk it. So as we see... Yaacov actually just leaned up in his chair, I can see Jakob off camera and showing him now to all of you. Jakob is leaning up in his chair and he's interested here. I think he has to make some critical decisions as he nears time pressure. Only 14 minutes remaining. Does he want to go for moves like G4? Okay, Jakob plays A3. Maybe he's going to play B4, try to open up both sides of the board, right? Play a little tickle. Play B4, but then he's got G4 coming. I totally disagree with Endgame Attack. If you're in the Chess TV chat too, Endgame Attack is in the game chat of Chess.com's live server, and he's just talking trash to Jakob, saying Jakob is being way too passive and this is 0-1. It's like the opposite. He's taking his time here, but Jakob has no real chances to lose this. Again, outside of time pressure induced blunders, which is a thing, but I don't think it's going to happen to Jakob. So A3 is interesting, and one idea to point out is once these weaknesses were created, instead of going all in, what Jakob is saying is, okay, let's say black stays passive here. White's going to play B4 maybe. And maybe I create some new avenues of entry on the C file, and then maybe I go back to the king side and poke fun over here. So, Jakob is trying to keep his options open right now. He's playing the field. And still playing with no real risk of losing. This is a very, very well-placed bishop. Weaknesses on the king side for that bishop to think about from now until kingdom come. A 2-pawn advantage, right, with no real weaknesses to speak of. So again, I'm very happy with White's chances in this game here, and I think Jakob is going to show us how to beat Komodo in this match. We'll see how he does. We'll see how he does in the other odds as well. We can provide some previews. Maybe people want to go to Chess.com's drills and practice them. If you're interested, no, I don't want to do that right now. But we'll look for some previews of it. We have another match today, I think at like 3 p.m. So is it 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. Pacific? So there is another match hosted by yours truly with Yaacov Norowitz taking on the Engine. And if he does well here and holds at least a draw, I think you should cancel your plans for the next couple days and tune in, because Jakob might be showing us. Jakob really wanted to play this match, by the way. He requested it. I think Jakob has a vision. Maybe he's our John Connor. Maybe we've thought I was the John Connor, but I'm that guy who gets killed in the first 5 minutes of the movie. Right. Queen to C2. That's an interesting. This is interesting one. Next match is at 2 p.m. and it's a piece for a pawn odds. Okay, thank you, Pete, for confirming that in the Twitch chat. Go ahead and confirm that for those in the Chess TV chat who didn't see that as well. Danny's USCF rating is 2,500. Answering Queen's Knight Out. Who wants to know what that is? John HS finally gives up on Guess the Move. You know what? Don't be frustrated. I'm the joke-cracking Bill Paxton. I love that rep. Does Bill Paxton get killed in the beginning of movies? He was in Twister, right? I mean, that was the beginning of Helen Hunt jumping the shark. Though Helen Hunt was great. And, okay, As Good as It Gets, right? Great movie, Jack Nicholson, awesome romantic comedy. I love As Good as It Gets, still heartwarming. I'm a chick flick kind of guy because I pretty much only get time to watch TV like with my wife, so I don't get to watch things that she doesn't want to watch, and she doesn't like zombies, violence, blood, or anything with too much nudity. So basically all the best shows on TV that everyone talks about, like, this guy's not watching them. Don't watch Game of Thrones. Don't watch Walking Dead. I don't watch Breaking Bad. I haven't seen anything. So don't tell me anything. Maybe someday, I'll grow up and be able to watch TV on my own without my wife. But right now, my TV is very limited. So that's a fun fact about Dan. All right. A5 is played. Again, we are we are getting down to crunch time here. Let's go back to analysis. We've only got 13 minutes and 15 minutes. We've seen enough of Jakob and the Dragon for now. And I wasn't really that thrilled with queen c2. I feel like that was unnecessarily slow. I'm not sure what Jakob was thinking. I guess he didn't like the idea of the rook sliding over. That's why he didn't play b4. But now I'm starting to get worried. I feel like Jakob is going the other direction, and b3 kind of tells me that. Like he's deciding. Okay, when he played slower before, I ended up being wrong, and he got plenty of good chances. So maybe I need to believe in Jakob and think that Jakob maybe has some match strategy to sit on the position for a little bit before doing something concrete. Again, White can't lose this position. I mean, short of, as I said, blunder-induced, serious blunder, time pressure-induced serious blunder, this position is not going anywhere. So the...
I can't get the barometric pressure for this morning, but currently it's 29.9 inches of mercury.
What did I ask Siri that it just started reading off the barometer? Did you guys hear that? I said something, and Siri goes, "Hey Siri, what's the pressure?" Oh, I said, "Hey Siri, I'm wondering what the time pressure is doing here." And she said, "I can't get the barometric pressure." That was hilarious. First of all, Siri, go back in your hole. Get out of here. What are you doing here, Siri? No one likes you. That was hilarious. Okay, first time on Chess TV that I accidentally put off Siri. Siri is always listening, Crypto Dude says, and it is creepy. I agree. Okay, so Queen D6 is played. Let's learn something here before this game gets under time pressure. Again, I feel like Queen to C2 and B3 are both against the flow of the position and where this was headed. I feel like B4 was the move I was sort of saying, like, let's open up new avenues of attack, and principle of two weaknesses suggest let's have play on the queen side, and maybe then we go back to threatening this at like a critical time. But again, that's how I would play against a human trying to play for a win. Against the engine, you know, Jakob is trying to be patient, which I don't blame him for, and he doesn't want to create too many opportunities for his lizard opponent. But what to do now? I mean, you can't play b4 anymore, because at the end of this line, you're just losing one of your pawns back. And no point in doing it if you... I mean, again, White probably still can't lose, but why lose the pawn? So he plays rook to b2. Jakob is... That's a useful position for the rook. It both keeps an eye on f2 for defensive measures and prepares the move rook to b1. And maybe he'll prepare to play b4. What happens if Black just sits? I just want to see. What's Jakob's plan? So here he would have the pass b pawn and may be able to advance. But it is risky in its own right, because abandoning the f2 pawn may open things on that side of the board. And again, I think if he just wants to play tickle, if Jakob just wants to sit tight, I don't begrudge him, and I don't think he can lose still. But, you know, the longer he waits, and there's bishop e7, which was the move I thought Komodo would play. The longer he waits, the more I'm thinking he just wants a draw. Because I don't think he's improving his chances here to push these things when he might be opening up ideas for Black to have targets on the dark squares. We've been highlighting so much that the reason I think Black can't win is because Black has no targets on the dark squares, right? And so then Pen and Paper 0089 in the Chess TV chat wants to know if White can win without going for complications. Probably not. Right? John HS, so interested to have the concrete data, just looks up my information. Danny is 2,500 USCF, 2416 FIDE. That is correct. I think my peak was like 2422 FIDE, whatever. I mean, I'm not really a practicing international master anymore. I've been retired probably really since I joined Chess.com, 8-9 years. But that doesn't keep me from teaching you guys here, which is fun. Okay, so yeah, I don't know. White can't really win without going into complications, and I don't blame him for wanting to be patient. And you can already see he slid the queen back. You know, what's Jakob thinking here? He's kind of being slow. I don't know that he's really looking at g4 again. Flopsy says he's looking at g4. I don't know that I really buy it. G4 opens up the door to complications that I'm not sure his attacking chances are greatly increased. Like, for example, if you play g4 now, and Black takes it and you take it, immediately there's rook f4. And Black actually has plenty of defense to this pawn which you do not have on h4. So immediately, I don't think g4 is really even an option. But even if he found a way to protect h4, I think the risk is, like, let's say there wasn't even some immediate win of the h-pawn. The problem is, I think your king and the h-pawn are just as big of targets as the g6 pawn. And it's not like before, where when we first started talking about this h4 plan, if you remember back in our analysis, White wanted to kind of push on a one-way street, right? White wants to have his cake and eat it too, create attacking chances on the light squares without really having too much risk. Again, against a human being in blitz, maybe you go for g4, but I feel like we're getting more and more likely that this position ends in a draw. And Jakob maybe understands he doesn't just want to push a bunch of pawns and actually lock it up to be a draw, because Komodo might come up with some weird thing. He just wants to sit on the position and be like, look, if Komodo abandons b4, I'll push b4. That's why he's got the rooks here. If Komodo did something crazy over here and abandoned g4, I'll play g4. Jakob has his options right now. Okay, he's sitting tight a little bit and asking Komodo what the plan is. And so we'll see. We shall see. Let's go check in with the chat and see what people think there. I don't really know what you mean, Belobi, in the Twitch TV chat. You're asking why not draw him to take the bishop? I don't know what bishop. GDog16 wants to know if the phrase "no pawn break" means no plan is a true thing. Yeah, I mean it's a true thing at a high level, where really the most concrete plans are always developed around the pawn structure and the square weaknesses or squares available. Why is that? Because they're the only things you can really dictate and execute a plan where it doesn't require your opponent helping, because pawns can't move backwards. So once a pawn weakness is created, it takes cooperation from the pieces for that to either be traded off or to be traded for a different pawn. Like, it takes cooperation to rid yourself of a structural weakness. Also, weak squares, right? Weak squares are permanent because they were created by pawns, so they can't go back. So when you have pawn breakthroughs, you're able to open up new lines and new avenues and new squares, new diagonals, new files, right? So if you don't have a pawn breakthrough, you don't have the ability to create new opportunities for your pieces. So the phrase "no pawn breakthroughs, no plans" is typically true. I would expand it to say it's not just pawn breakthroughs. It's the best plans are developed around the long-term features of any position, because you can execute a plan that is about building up on a weak, a pawn. Like, let's say White had the ability to bring a knight, and let's say the A file was open. You could commit to a long-term plan that your opponent can't really stop, and the pawn weakness isn't going anywhere. So that's why the high-level plans are developed that way. And if your opponent blunders something along the way, then so be it. Phenomenal, right? But that's a good question, G-Dog, and it is a true phrase. Scott PT12 says, seriously, does it get complex for a computer? The term complications implies making things very unclear. With respect to results for a human, a computer simply looks at millions of options and uses the one that makes the most sense in that position. It is true. I mean, that is a good distinction, semantics between the way a computer and a human thinks. Humans use the term complex. Computers are always in the complexity of the variations, because that's how they approach chess. Right? And we've given them things. We've taught them to evaluate pawn majorities and the bishop pair and king safety. We've taught them to see that those things are not good, and it helps them in their calculations. But, essentially all they're doing is calculating as deeply as possible and seeing the position to a level that makes sense for them to improve their math, improve the evaluation. So, yeah. Yeah, but it is true. Yeah, Pete makes a good point. Yeah, engines will tell you the complexity of the position, and partly I think that is based on their evaluation of all those factors. Like, if we were to put a computer in layman's terms, what gives them their evaluation? Well, at the top of the evaluation is checkmate. If they see force checkmate, they'll sacrifice any material. The second thing that a computer evaluates is the material, the material itself. Concrete advantages is like pawns and pieces, right? Who's up? Who has more pieces, right? So checkmate is at the top of the computer pyramid. Then we have material, right? Then you get into this layer of chess essence, which we taught the computers to think about, which involve piece activity, king safety, pawn structure, okay, and space, and then I would put piece dynamics, like the bishop pair is in there as well. So like, so an active piece, having more space, having a safe king, these are things the computers have been taught to think about as accumulative scores. More active pieces, more space, better king safety lead to an advantage, which maybe gives you a chance to increase this second tier. So I'm trying to kind of give you layman terms, and we actually know a lot about this because of people who know our cap system, and we actually have a full team of statisticians. Some of the things we do, partly it's like a labor of love project for me and Eric and guys like Pete who just like love seeing how computers think differently. But partly it's really fascinating to see mathematically, the kind of statistics you can draw out from chess games in terms of how humans evaluate things differently than computers and how they could have been more accurate if they weighed king safety better than a pawn or something like that. So it's really interesting. So we, I don't want to go too much more into that because we actually have some cool stuff coming out on that, and it's a feature and one of the things that we invest in. 4 of our salary employees at Chess.com basically work all full-time on chess statistics and cheat detection. Period. It's all they do. Probably closer to 5 or 6 if you include part-time employees, but that's something that Chess.com invests heavily in. So you're welcome, Scotty P. Scotty didn't know. The most underrated Matt Damon appearance ever in Eurotrip. Come on, you guys got to give me some love for the Eurotrip reference. I know you guys hate the pop culture, but come on, Scotty didn't know. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. I think I could pass for a Matt Damon with a mohawk today. Scotty doesn't know. All right, this is going to be a draw. So hopefully you appreciated my detailed response here of this computer evaluation. And it's actually a little bit more complex, but Uncle Sasha doesn't understand everything himself. So I try not to put too many feet inside of my mouth. That looks so weird. Oh, gosh. LOL. LM. LOL. LLMLLMAO, which means loud mayonnaise artichoke dipping sauce off. LMAO. Luscious mayonnaise artichoke dipping sauce off. That's what that means. Any Hooters. Okay. Well, the position is stuck. The position is stuck here. We have nothing here to talk about, so let's see what Larry is doing. Oh, Larry, you're right where we left you. You're petting the animal. Good for you, buddy. Okay, Larry's going to Pet Town. Population Komodo rubbing. He could win a medal for how well he rubs that lizard. But yeah, I think we're just playing tickle here. We're playing tickle here. Jakob is not winning. Jakob is drawing. And again, nothing is going to get more complex about this position because now we've officially crossed the line where I don't think Jakob is going to go for it. And what I mean by that is, if we pop back to the analysis, what are the pawn breakthroughs? GDog16 in the Twitch chat asked a good question about without the pawn breakthroughs, there's no plan. Well, Black has officially put the kibosh on B4, I think. F4 would only do harm to White's king side and give Black more dark square weaknesses to go after. And I think Jakob has already played his hand here, right? We were curious how aggressive Jakob was going to be if we back up to this position, if you're just joining us. When Jakob played H4, obviously we had H5 potentially coming. And I thought maybe if B4 was the plan, that this would be something where he was really trying to create weaknesses on both sides of the board. I expected B4 here, to be honest. After takes and takes, maybe that's why he didn't. He didn't want to separate the pawns. I understand that those are weaknesses, but I think if you were going to go for winning chances, you had to open up the position at some point. He didn't do that, right? He played B3 instead and kind of started sitting on the position, which to me sort of suggested that he didn't like the idea of opening it up, was willing to take the draw, and now Jakob still remains in the driver's seat. White's the only one who could win here. Believe me, if Komodo could win with the contempt setting and knowing how Larry feels about his dragons, if Komodo could win, he'd be playing for a win here. But there's no possible way. So, I'm not going to read what somebody just suggested donating. Let's keep this. Anyway, but of course, anyone, make sure you subscribe to our channel and continue to support both the Twitch channel or become a premium member. And again, I want to remind everybody, because there's been a lot of questions. Everyone who joins has questions about what the Fen is. So remind you, that is the fen, and this is that. And if you are interested, you can go to chess.com/drills, the practice drills that we've had for a very long time on our site, but really weren't given justice in our old site. And, you know, there's a lot of custom positions, but if you want to create your own position, you can actually do it a number of ways. You can also go to chess.com/analysis and enter the fen. Enter the fen. This was the position they had. And then you can play the position versus the computer in the lower right corner. You can finish any position versus the computer. So that's a fun little fact to know. You can practice any position against the computer that you want to. All right, well, we're running out of stuff to talk about here. This is just back and forth. Easy peasy, easy breezy, beautiful cover girl. Yeah, pen and paper just summarized it well. He said Jakob doesn't want to lose in the complications, but he can never win if he doesn't attempt it. Welcome to Engine Chess. I don't know that that's that unfair. That's the cynical way to say it. And people who worship the engines, like our buddy Pete or Larry, would say that that's the highest form of chess, right? The highest form of chess is that it is a draw. But the engines, with their different personalities, the slight personalities, I mean, if you pay attention to like the computer chess championships that are out there, they do beat each other from time to time. They draw most games. Like out of 100 games, there's like only a handful of decisive results, but there is still decisive results. So even calculated at the highest level, it's cool to see that chess still isn't solved even there. And it makes us even more confident that probably classical chess is not close to being solved for the best humans, despite them all preparing with the best computers at home, the best software, all that stuff. So, you know, I think it is good. Danny, what is wrong with playing b4? Well, in this position, let's see. The main problem with it is that you're just losing. Right now, as long as black has the dark square bishop on b4, you don't have enough. You don't have enough. So you're just, you know, you're not going to want to sack the exchange. Although funny, probably even this position, white's doing fine, although I wouldn't want to brave myself against the engine in this endgame. But the reason you can't play b4 is because there is no breakthrough. Yeah, there is no breakthrough that is safe. If you play b4, black has the upper hand at this point. That's partly like because the evaluation of the position of the bishop is worse than the rook. That's actually an important semantics thing to clarify in chess. Let me do that real quick for the beginners here. When you first learn to play chess, you learn how to count, right? So let's say we get an equal trade. Here you see I'm giving up 1 point for 1 point, and both sides are able to take a point. I'm just making a specific thing just about the trade, right? So when you first learn chess, you learn how to count like the amount of pieces that are ganged up on a square. So like in a Scotch position, you know, we have this position where a trade is offered because black can win both a pawn and a knight, and white can win both a pawn and a knight if everything is traded. So the first thing you learn to count is the amount of attackers and defenders. If both sides have an equal number of attackers and defenders, the trades will be eye for an eye. I get something, you get something. I get something, you get something. It's an eye for an eye. But the next level of chess counting is to learn the value of the pieces in the trade. So for example, in the Scotch, even though the knights are equal, this is often frowned upon for black because you're trading a knight that brings the queen to a much more powerful square. So you actually lose that trade because you increase your opponent's piece activity, the value of it. So in this position, for example, I'm saying the trade isn't possible because even though the amount of attackers and defenders might be close to equal, right? Black has 1, 2, 3. White, after b4, would have one queen, 1 pawn, 1 rook. That's 3. So we'd have a trade, an eye for an eye, an eye for an eye, and at the end, both sides took 3 things, but who got the better of it? Black did because he lost a bishop and you lost a rook. A rook is worth more than a bishop. So when you're counting in chess, this is really basic stuff, but it is important to, it helps at an advanced level with that Scotch reference I made. I think that most people know, okay, I don't want to give up a bishop for a rook, or, Like here, okay, here's another example. You have one attacker and one defender. So certainly that's an eye for an eye in terms of trade. And you'll always notice this when you try to teach your 5-year-old chess. I'm trying to teach my 5-year-old girl chess, right? She doesn't care about that. She's like, oh, I get a piece and you get a piece, Daddy. It's equal. We both have the same, right? So if you try to teach a kid chess, you'll really know that what I'm saying is not just made up BS here, right? I mean, that's how people think about it at first. I get a piece, you get a piece. It's an eye for an eye. But then you learn the value of the numbers of the pieces. Bishop is worth 3, pawn's worth 1. Now she knows a little more. A bishop is worth 3, a rook is worth 5. So that's why white doesn't do this. But the next level is learning at the end of the trade, whose pieces improved more? Let's say you're not just giving up material willy-nilly. You know that a bishop is worth more than a pawn. And let's say you're beyond the level of just calculating eye for an eye. The next thing you have to evaluate is, am I actually, who's getting more value at the end of this transition, right? And if you're improving the activity, just the literal scope, you don't even have to know how advanced players would calculate it. If you're just improving the literal scope of your opponent's pieces over yours, you're probably not making the best trade most of the time. Now, again, there's opening theory and whatever, but that's just a really basic way to kind of embrace thinking about whether or not you should be making trades in chess. So sorry for the tangent there, but let's be honest, Jakob's not giving us any fireworks here, so you're welcome for the education. Let me know in the comments if that was helpful or not, but that's the different levels of understanding for trading. The basic, teach your 5-year-old girl chess is eye for an eye. Count the number of attackers and defenders so that everybody gets equal amount of things that they took. Everyone's happy. Equal candy, right? 5-year-old chess with my daughter. The next level is what are those actually worth? Is a Snickers worth more than like a small Jolly Rancher? That's how you would teach a kid, right? Okay, the bishop is worth more than this here. This is the Snickers, this is the Jolly Rancher, okay? You get what I'm saying? Then the next level is, let's say everything's equal and you know how to evaluate the pieces in terms of points. Like, what opportunities are you creating that are new? Are you giving your opponent new avenues? And that's a more advanced way to think about the end of a transition. So, people seem to think it's a little helpful. Queen's Night Out is pointing out you're not going to be injured on time. End of story. Of course you're not. Yeah, this position is just headed closer and closer to a draw. But I shouldn't say that, because the truth is, the one way it can backfire for Jakob is the longer you actually don't take the draw and the pieces just kind of sit, if the time keeps ticking away, we get this blunder-induced, time pressure-induced blunder, right? So that's the issue with Jakob's chances here. We have this guy. Okay, very good. I'm not going to respond to Mick Loping, who's playing the role of the Twitch chat. I'm going to try to offend people. I understand. I respect that role. Everyone needs a troll trolling the chat, saying offensive things, hoping to get attention. So Mick Loping, I tip my hat to you. I'm reading your comments, but I'm not going to read your comments. And if they get any more offensive, I'm going to ban you. All right, so back it up a little bit. Back up the offensive comments, Mick Loping. Awesome, 843. That's a good way to say it. I kind of knew this before, but I kind of learned something, so I'm kind of that's a great thing. I wasn't trying to blow your minds with mind blowingness. I wasn't trying to blow your minds with mind blowingness. I'm just helping you think about something at a different level. It does get taken for granted. Sometimes those basic things. A lot of times people say this, but then in your games, you make trades mindlessly, and you're not properly evaluating like the goal with the trade. And that's why amateurs break tension and masters build on the tension. That's like a very, that's a deeper way to look at it. Like the master chess player builds on the tension. He's never the first one to blink, right? And unless he's like clearly gaining something like massively concrete where it shouldn't even be called breaking the tension anymore. It should be called executing on a combination, right? The amateur breaks tension because they don't understand properly how to build on those trades. Danny, have you ever read something from Yusupov? I've read a lot of Dvoretsky, and Yusupov, of course, is Dvoretsky's golden child. I actually worked with both Dvoretsky and Sergei Domatov. Domatov was Dvoretsky's first golden child before Yusupov came along. When I was in Russia, when I was 15, I spent a summer in Russia working with Dvoretsky and Mr. Sergei Dalmatov. We actually got a call from Vladimir Kramnik while I was in a lesson with Dalmatov about some preparation, which was really cool. It was a cool thing to be a part of. Komodo is an engine. Larry Kaufman is the hand. The invisible hand that is guiding the engine. Larry Kaufman is inputting the moves into his supercomputer live from New York. Not New York. I was just making an SNL reference. But it is Komodo. It is a computer engine. This is man versus machine at material odds. And again, if you're getting here and you're about to ask the same question others have, what was the position? I just shared it to you. You can go to chess.com/drills and play the position yourself if you would like. So, Opon Ent asks if we can elaborate a little bit on the process of Larry choosing the move. Does he always choose the top move? I actually don't know. I actually don't know what it is. We've never set any rules about that. It's just about human beings taking on the... I mean, I wouldn't blame him if he had like a hand in choosing like a second or third best move because he thought it was better. I think if you do that over time, he's going to be hurting the engine, not helping it. I would bet that Larry basically gives it a certain amount of time and Komodo just makes the move. I think that he inputs it from the Chess.com live server into like an arena type software. Like a software where the computer's actually making the move. Like Larry isn't choosing the move from the top line. It's not like a list of 3 lines. Larry is inputting the move in a software where Komodo actually makes the move. And the reason we have the 15-second increment, I actually know this to be true now. Sorry, I guess at first I wasn't sure, but yeah, I know that to be true. Larry inputs the move, and Komodo actually makes the move. Larry is not choosing the moves, whether it's like arena-type software or their own custom program where they, are able to input the move from the human, and Komodo chooses a move. Larry has no say in making the moves. I can say that for sure. And I can say that that's partly why we have the 15-second increment to allow for a little bit of handler time. Because if this game remains close and Larry gets under time pressure, it's actually going to be harder and harder for him to make the relay between Chess.com to the engine. So, something to keep in mind. But a lot of people are curious about this engine stuff, so let me actually remind you guys, if you don't remember the announcement we made, but we will actually be hosting our first ever Chess.com Computer Chess Championship. We're making our own Computer World Chess Championship, and we're going to do it with a little bit of a Chess.com spin. Going to be some rapid time controls. Going to be with human commentary to make it fun. But the Chess.com Computer Chess World Championship, whatever you want to call it, is going to be going down November 13th through 16th. We need to get a graphic for that. We need to get a graphic with dates that I can show on the show. Starting with the next round. Because I know people have been excited about the Computer Chess Championship. We're putting up a prize fund, which is going to be donated directly to the developers. So in the interest of further improving open source engines and giving these guys a little bit of love for their work, not just the open source engines, we've also invited Komodo, Houdini, some of the paid engines, but we have a prize fund. It's going to be rapid chess, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So mark your calendars for the Computer Chess Championship, November 13th through 16th. All right, enough of Larry's hand giving me nightmares and making me feel things I don't want to feel. Let's let the basking lizard take us home. He's just trading more. Jakob is bringing the trades. I'm hungry. Oh, Danny, we don't care. Oh, okay. Keep doing the show, Danny. Okay, no, I'm kidding. I'm hungry. All right, well, good for Yaakov. He's confirming he's getting closer and closer to a position where there's really, really, really no chances to lose. Not that there wasn't before, but there's really, really, really no chances to lose now, despite how scary that dragon looks. Okay. So what else do you want to talk about, guys? Guys and gals in the Chess.com TV chat, the Twitch TV chess chat. I love you, Xcode XX. Loping is funny. He's funny. Danny, when can we play some games with you? It's not today's show. I'm actually replacing the Bullet Brawl on Friday with an amateur hour. So this week, John Urschel and I will be teaming up, and working together in an amateur hour. I think we'll do another 15-minute drill. So that's a lot of fun. Is there a way to compare piece values against the activity of the pieces? Yes, there is. That's partly what we are doing with our evaluations and a lot of the statistics that we're investing in. So imaginary eclipse, yes, there is. And there's a way to even show, there's interesting stuff coming your way with some of the reports we're doing. Maybe we can show someone, you value material more than you do this, which maybe isn't always the best thing to do. And it's hard. Because it's like when we came up with our cap score and people are like, oh, you guys are just idiots, and now everybody's looking for new ways to measure chess, right? Okay, whatever, right? But the cap score is designed to have you, ranked against something that is blind to result, blind to rating, blind to a lot of human factors that affect the way we think about a good game. When you could actually play a terrible game and then your opponent just makes one blunder and you won, right? So it compares your overall chess play to things that are, and the yardstick also allows us to answer that time machine battle where we get to go back in time and compare people previously to how they played accurately. And even though the only argument against it is that, okay, chess engines do affect play more now because of opening prep, but we do our best to remove all of those things from the question, the evaluation, to make sure we're really just evaluating, the critical moment factor. So without getting into all the details, I can say that we work hard to avoid that. But the things that we're trying to look at now are some really cool stuff to help people learn from their chess in terms of how they evaluate things, maybe in an improper fashion. So we're not quite ready. I don't want to reveal everything yet. I don't want to give, our other competing websites more ideas about what we're doing. And then they can try to copy more of the cap stuff. But anyway, it's a fun thing, and we're really enjoying working on it. And Jakob's cap score is 10 out of 10. Just looking at his camera knows. Yeah, Jakob does have a cap on. Yep, that's right. And why is he nervous now? Jakob is making some nervous faces. I don't think F4 is going to come. People are asking for F4, both in the Chess TV chat and in the Twitch chat. Kaufman is down on time pressure. People are worried that Kaufman might flag. I agree. I mean, I think at a certain point they should just offer a draw. But the problem is he's built in so much contempt in the engine where he doesn't want Komodo to take a draw. Perpetual stalemate here, asking the question we've been waiting for people to ask, and I'm instantly ready to post a Fen. That is the position. You can go play it yourself. Go to chess.com/analysis and play it yourself. Yeah, maybe he'll offer a queen trade there with just queen f3. Anyway, there's not really a lot going on here that's going to change the evaluation from something we've been saying for a while, which is the risk of these engine-type matches. If you don't have an idiot like me commentating and blundering, right, then you don't get as much fireworks because this is getting a little bit lame. And maybe now he'll just repeat. I don't know. I mean, there's not really anything Komodo can do here. So if Larry wants to risk Komodo flagging by relaying it back and forth, yeah, pen and paper is the human contempt Skynet, right? I mean, we will all remember the day that Google became self-aware. That's for sure. No, the contempt is a contempt for a draw. That is okay to stay on stream because I'm implying exactly what I mean to say, perpetual stalemate. But thank you. Get your mind out of the gutter. Get your mind out of the gutter, perpetual stalemate. All right, what do we have here? We have more continued Komodo dragon. You take walk on sand, beach. That's not a vacation Uncle Sasha has really enjoyed. Okay, we have tickle now. Let's play tickle. Let's play tickle. We have draw. All right, seriously, I gotta think about what I'm gonna do here about my lunch. You guys ever get some organic cashews? Organic cashews, right? A little Costco action. Let's get some cashews. Oh, how unprofessional is this? Now he's eating on Chess TV. I'm advertising Costco and John H.S.'s. No, I'm not advertising Costco. Costco doesn't need any advertising. Just saying I eat organic, whole cashews. They're unsalted. Apparently they're a natural anxiety soother. I don't know. That's what all those holistic health doctors say. You know. Jakob asking the chat if the engine is taught not to draw. Exactly. Exactly right. It is taught not to draw. But you don't worry about it, Jakob. Just play fast and let him lose on time. Ooh, look at that move. Jakob bringing the noise via the H3 C8 diagonal. That's a great point by On the Rise 7777, 4 sevens, is if the engine was playing itself here, what plan would the engine come up with as white to try to win? That's a really fascinating question. I think that's a cool like puzzle for next time. Like after we do these matches, I wonder if Larry could do that on his own time, like have the engine take the other side against itself and see how it might win better than the human did, because I think the answer is yes. I think Komodo would be playing for a win as white. I think, Jakob is sort of teasing at a win with white. I actually really like this idea of bringing the queen to this diagonal. I think that's kind of irritating for the engine and kind of flips the script a little bit where now the engine is back to being on his toes. I mean, I think the engine is going to regret not taking the draw in this game. I'm not sure he still can't hold, but you got to deal with the infiltration of the queen. I mean, for example, a move like queen to d8. Okay, he plays queen e8. This is the only real way to do it, because if a move like queen to d8 is played, then the queen comes into e6 and he's just losing. So queen to e8 keeps an eye on everything, and again, if Jakob is ready for a draw, he can just put the queen on e6 and offer a queen trade, right? I mean, this is not a position that white is in any danger of losing. I don't know that white can win either, though. I mean, even if you take away any breakthroughs, for sure it's just a draw, right? Actually, maybe there you could push e7, actually, yeah, and force that. That would actually give white winning chances. Okay, so Komodo doesn't want to do that. Huh. But Jakob didn't play queen e6. Did he miss an opportunity there, everybody? What if white plays queen e6? You can't avoid the queen trade and not give a pawn because d6 falls. So this is forced. If you play here, e7 is pretty much forced to go get these pawns. So that means bishop d8 would have been the only move. And I guess, okay, probably still a draw. But then you have this move here and then here. And maybe the king runs in? I'm actually not so sure. I mean, this has become suddenly much spicier than it's been for the last several moves. Did Jakob have winning chances with queen to e6? This is the question. Again, I believe queen takes e6 seems forced. d6 is falling. Okay, I guess, no, the queen is hanging. Yeah, I mean, there's no other move here. Queen takes e6 is the only move. And again, if king here, this move forces the capture of the pawn, and white's going to win 2 pawns to go with it, and for sure these are very good winning chances. So I've established a concrete line of thinking, which means bishop d8 is forced. And if I can now maneuver my bishop around, okay, maybe you have g5. Maybe you have g5. Okay, this could be key. And if I take it and go here, you can even play h4 and try to trade off all the pawns. If that happened, probably black is drawing. Okay, but even in the current position, I mean, Jakob is squeezing. He's squeezing the lizard right now. I mean, seriously. Look closely and you can see Larry's hand shaking. He's shaking. He's nervous. And Jakob is playing really, really smart chess in regards to how you play against the engine with this like tickle moves, because he's sort of taking advantage of the fact that the engine doesn't want to just repeat moves because he has this contempt thing where he doesn't want to draw. That's what the engine needs to do, is just repeat moves. But instead, the engine has contempt and doesn't want the draw, but I mean, now this queen has infiltrated in on the light squares. I feel like white might actually be getting into a position where you might see some sort of fireworks here because of the potential targets of these pieces meeting on the light squares. So I think Jakob is leaning in here for a good reason. This is interesting, everybody. Buckle up. Don't go anywhere. We might actually see a victory just yet or a decisive result to surprise us. Lord Josh doesn't suggest squeezing lizards, says it gets weird. I'm going to take your word on that, buddy. I'm going to take your word on that. Xcodex wants to say, I love the new 4-player chess on the website. Cool, thanks. A lot of fun. Yeah, we brought over John from Hello Chess, and because we saw it, we knew it was great. We said, hey, let's bring our two things together. We've got a great community at Chess.com, and you have got a really cool idea. So we acqui-hired him. Acquired. I love inventing words. Anyway, but John has been great, and 4-player chess is amazing. I love it too. I agree with Night Factor in Twitch, who says if two humans are playing this, probably white is winning. I tend to agree. This is getting harder and harder. This is getting harder and harder for black to defend. I agree. Yeah, I mean, he's still playing Tickle, but this is as well as I've seen a human approach against the engine in a long time. Like, even with criticisms earlier, maybe not as aggressive against the weak F7 pawn being gone to start, and then maybe not, but in terms of his style, if you want to say Jakob from start to finish, you know, let's say Jakob chess from start to finish, his style of I want to get a solid position I'm comfortable with. He didn't go for the most aggressive lines, but did fianchetto his bishop, which is an opening he's familiar with. So he's getting a structure that he knows how to play. You know, then he took his opportunity to expose maybe, I think, an engine flaw in that the engine was willing, thinking it's gaining some of the initiative so it makes the math look like black is happy, but it really went into a position where humans are so comfortable because in the opposite bishop trade and with the knight on d5, Yaakov suddenly really had no chances to lose the game. So a solid approach in a position he was comfortable with, took his opportunity. He was timely in how he made the trade and took advantage of kind of the engine bias where I think the engine looked at the math as okay for black, but human beings are just so much easier. It's so much easier to play this position as white. And from here on out, it's been just like supernatural moves, making trades, you know, poking when possible. He plays h4. Again, doesn't get everything he wants with h5, but you know, again, so here with a3 and b3 and queen c2, I was a little critical of Jakob going back to being passive. But I think Jakob already decided he was going to be okay with a draw. And this was proven by all the maneuvering we saw. Jakob is just trading pieces one at a time. So if you're just joining us, that's kind of a full recap. And when you think it's just kind of over and should be a draw, the human is taking advantage of the computer's contempt, right? Komodo should just move the queen back and forth and take a draw. But instead, he's doing new things because he doesn't want to draw, so he moves a pawn. But what did that do? That opened up this diagonal here. And Yaakov recognizes that plan and swings the queen around and comes in. And so, again, I agree. Like, I don't know that Yaakov can win this, but now the engine is repeating moves because there's no option but to move the queen back and forth pretty much. And I think Yaakov has really been in the driver's seat here. This has been very impressive. I'm hungry. You guys know it. My throat hurts because I talk for a living. You guys are like, oh, tough it out, Danny. Well, you know, if you like type for a living, what happens if your fingers hurt? Queen e6. Maybe queen e6. There. Хорошо. Okay. Okay, he goes for it. I like it. Yeah, nice. Very nice. Das Vidanya, g6 pawn. You better defend that guy. Okay. Jakob can pleasantly just decide on his approach now. pleasantly decide on this guy. He can trade and just offer the draw. Maybe now he'll actually repeat, and maybe now the engine actually repeats. Because now it's really tough, right? If we go back to the analysis board, the issue now with Komodo getting down on time is if you don't repeat and play bishop e7, there's this tactic. The queen has to take, and then you win this guy, and it's over. Komodo plays g5! Look at his level of contempt! That is not a good move. What in the world? The evaluation has shifted. g5 is played. How and why? Yaakov can take h5. Takes? You give a little Chekaruski? Really? Really? Oh, well, I guess he had no choice. What am I thinking? Yeah, black couldn't play queen f8 because queen takes g6. And bishop e7 failed to bishop takes g6. So there were actually no moves. He had to play g5. Wow. Is Yaakov on a way to a victory here? This is human beings outplaying engines. Okay, at material odds, but still. That's right, you better walk away, Komodo. Y'all just got served, yo. Y'all just got served. I think white has real winning chances now. Remember this. Human beings might play moves like jumping in here to go for a draw, and maybe another human misses a chance to win. But Komodo's going to calculate that at the end. So you're not going to see the queen enter with Komodo unless you're sure there's no mate and you think there's a real chance for a draw. So I think Komodo instead is going to sit tight, but I think that's going to make it easier for Yaakov, from a human perspective. So now he can take. What happens on takes? If he takes, Komodo gives check, I think. And then you have to be careful. You don't want to allow this because then you're just going into a perpetual. So you have to kind of Oh, actually, maybe that's a draw. Okay, you could run this way, but then he has this check. Interesting. So actually, if he takes it, I think Komodo gets a draw with queen to g4. That's what I'm thinking. So Yaakov very smartly realizes that and throws in this check for good measure, which guards this, and now he's going to be able to take here. Okay, maybe Komodo's still gonna get a draw here. Yaakov plays queen f5. Yaakov want more. Yaakov want mate. Yaakov hungry. That's right. Probably this should still be a draw, knowing what we know about Komodo. Man, super impressed by Yaakov's play today. We're going to have him join the show as soon as the game is over to talk a little bit about it. So don't go anywhere. He can just repeat now. He can finally just take the draw if that's really what Yaakov wants, and he might be about to do that. But we'll see. One way to repeat is you call out the computer's contempt again, and if the computer doesn't want the draw, right? Because what are the other moves here for black if he doesn't want to draw? Is he going to take? I don't know. Taking would be awfully risky, I think. Okay, check here is mate, so that's not an option. And if you go here, we have this check, And then, I don't even know. I guess we have at least a draw, but I can even just take here. So I think that the engine might finally be taking a draw here, and it looks like the engine is doing that. We've seen this position once, this position once, this position once, this position twice, this position twice. So if Yaakov plays queen to d7 check, it's a draw. He doesn't have to. He's the only one who can win. Despite the fact that he really may not have very many winning chances, but he is the only one who can win. Probably Larry's feeling pretty proud right now of his lizard and for defending this position. And also slightly frustrated. I still think that Komodo playing e5 is just one of those like really clear moments where the engine did something that no higher rated human would have ever done. Okay, Jakob trades queens. So it may not mean he's going to win, but it means he's still trying for the win. Because now he has to deal with the passed pawn. How's he going to deal with the passed pawn? Kesker 2006 says, I think Komodo Chess is using an engine in the Chess.com chat, not the Chess TV chat. I think Komodo Chess is using an engine. Okay, so this is a good way to force black to take, right? Which leaves you with the passed g-pawn. Because if h3, everybody, then the king can run and chase it, and you go win that pawn because the bishop guards queen. So that's not an option, and Komodo realizes that he takes it. I think Yaakov, takes with the pawn. That's the right thing to do. And now king h6 is met by king g4, and if he gets the king in, and he's able to advance the pawn, you know, he's maintaining. That was a good move. That's Komodo's idea. Very nice, actually. Perfect timing. Because let me show you the difference. Like, if you go here and try to blockade the g5 square, white is going to come into f5. And with the king here, white has serious winning chances, both because the d6 pawn is under fire and because the g pawn is helped. But in the game, Komodo is going to play king f6 to guard it. Okay? And now the king is able to kind of shoulder the white king because the white king doesn't want to go this way. Yeah, and that's what Komodo does. Komodo plays king f6, and the difference is that if you go here, let's say we get the same kind of stuff where white gets g4 in here. The big difference is white has no second weakness to target, right? And in the position with the king on f5 and the king on h6, there's a second weakness which is going to be enough to win because the bishop is not going to be able to guard both g5 and d6. In this position, white is not going to be able to have a second target. The g-pawn will be all that black has to focus on, and it's going to be an easy draw for Komodo. So, okay, Yaakov backs up, but if you ever play king on f3 to g4 and then go back to f3 on the next move, no progress is being made here. So this is going to be a draw. Finally, for sure, I am going to call it and say that this is just going to be a draw. Yaakov no longer has winning chances. Once I saw the king get to f6, and the bishop can maintain a focus on a singular problem, which is the g5 square, white has no winning chances. Maybe Yaakov plays tickle and tries to pretend to come around, but it doesn't matter. I mean, at any moment, the computer can play this and force a4. He probably only doesn't do it because the computer has contempt for a draw. But, okay, it's just a draw. Scott DP P12 says it was more fun when Danny was playing and commentating. Okay, interesting. Jakob doesn't have those broadcasting, he doesn't have that experience. A lot of people don't provide the same type of commentary while playing, right? So we want to get more people in these material odds versus Komodo, man versus machine, but, mix it up a little bit. Me playing all the time is fun. I like playing the machine and getting crushed. I really do, actually, even though sometimes it seems to put me in a bad mood. I don't mind. But I think this is probably more educational. I think I really have times to break down critical moments. Like if I had 30 seconds on the clock right now, I'm not focused on whether you guys are learning about why king f6 was such an instructive draw by Komodo, right? So we will be getting 2,700 GMs to try this. In fact, do you guys not remember Hikaru Nakamura's man versus machine? We did that a couple years ago. Raven Fury on the Twitch chat wants to know why we don't get more Super GM, but we have done that. And lately we've been putting so much into the Pro Chess League or the Speed Chess Championship matches, we want to do more variant stuff, talking with guys like Aronian and MBL. I mean, we know we would like to do a Bughouse Championship, so we can only do so much with 2,700 GMs, but I think the future of doing this sort of imbalance is something really interesting, and it is inherently instructive, I think, because it immediately starts out with both sides trying to do different things, which makes it interesting to see plans that are taken. It's not too boring. Okay, this one reached a little bit of boring stuff with the Obscure Bishops. I mean, I'm not going to defend that. It really was a little boring. But, we got to have some fun talks and make some awkward jokes and talk about, cap systems and give you guys kind of the engine breakdown of how they evaluate things and their pyramid of hierarchy thinking. So you're welcome for the responses, Scott. Hope to see you in a couple hours, everybody. Yeah, Nakamura drew one of those games with pawn odds. This game is just about to be a draw. I don't know. I mean, to use the bullet term, I mean, Jakob can basically pre-move his way to a draw. Is Nepo going to stream, or is it still under NDA? What is non-disclosure? Nepo, we've talked with Nepo about it. We want to get, we want the world of chess to continue to grow and blow up, and we are actually working on a partnership with Twitch that hopefully I can announce soon. And we plan to continue to provide more opportunities for the best chess players to be like the best esports players in the world, and have their own channels, like we've already kind of helped get Hikaru going, and we try to do what we can there. So it is one of the goals of Chess.com to continue to contribute to the revolution of chess streaming as an esports, as kind of a chess ecosystem on Twitch, So we would like Nepo to stream, but I don't want to guarantee it yet because we're just kind of talking with him about it. Anyway, thanks for all the questions in both the Twitch chat and the Chess TV chat. Tried to bounce back and forth between all you guys today. Yes, there's an increment. People are wondering in the Chess TV chat why the time is coming back. That's because there's a 15-second increment. This should just be a draw. I think, okay, Komodo Chess is just declining the draw. Larry, you might just want to, insert your human hand here and just draw the game. It doesn't serve anybody. We're just sort of playing tickle here. And the only reason I'm not ending the show right now is because we want to talk to Jakob for a few minutes after the game and provide a little bit of analysis. All right, we go, and we got the draw. We got the draw. We got the draw. We got Jakob here. Jakob, can you hear me?
Hey, Danny.
Hey, man. Let me make sure the sound is good. Say something for me.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Good work, buddy.
Hi.
Hi. You need to mute Chess TV. Hurry.
Good work, buddy. Thank you. Oh, I was close.
Hey, you're on some kind of echo. You need to mute Chess TV.
I should mute Chess TV? Okay, hold on. I was close. How do I mute Chess TV? Hold on.
There's just a little mute button. If you hold your mouse over the video player, there's a little sound button.
Okay, is this any better?
Yeah, better.
Okay.
All right, well, we've got a lot of fans here. We're at peak viewers right now, pretty much, for the show. So a lot of people tuned in and saw you. I wouldn't say you necessarily slayed the dragon, but you tamed the beast.
Tamed indeed.
You tamed the beast, man. I'm really happy. So let's go through this game real quick, because I like to to dive into your thought process and provide some instruction for the fans. And so I was initially a little critical of your approach for not being more aggressive against the light squares. So on move 2, for example, after knight c3, e6, so let's say move 3 when you played knight f3, were you considering more aggressive plans to try to open the center earlier, maybe something like d4 on move 3 instead of knight f3, or what were your thoughts?
I just decided no tactics. That's my strategy. No tactics. Just avoid everything.
Okay.
Yeah,
so even if you would agree that like a principled approach to be aggressive on the light squares might be something you would do like against a human, like against Komodo, you're just like no tactics. That's your plan.
Absolutely. I mean, I think these moves aren't absolutely like d3 can't be right. There's no way d3 is correct, but it's the best. But I decided like no, I don't care. No tactics. Like just that's if I decide if I avoid tactics, I feel happy.
Well, it's interesting, and I really like hearing that because I think you're. Believe it or not, I love when people prove me wrong, and I love that your approach worked out for you because I was thinking that the lack of being a little more accurate or let's say aggressive against the light squares and inviting the tactics might allow some of the biggest parts of this advantage to slip. Like if we jump, you took a fianchettoed approach, which I told people is a position you're comfortable with, like your opening repertoire. You like fianchettoing the light square bishop. But if we jump to kind of a position around like move 7, if Komodo hadn't played queen c7 and maybe castles, you could argue that, Komodo's down 2 pawns, but he's got the open f-file, you got the bishop there, and you could say that maybe white hasn't gotten the biggest possible advantage against this 2-pawn material odds situation.
Yeah, I think it was small, but it was quite. It's hard for black to do anything. It's just too solid. Like I'm just gonna sit there forever.
Okay. And that's your plan, is to kind of sit there forever, even in a rapid game. You like sort of squeezing the life out of the position and not letting Komodo flex its tactical muscles.
Exactly.
I love it.
I've been practicing a little bit and trying to get tactical. It never works. Can never do it. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Okay. Well, I was saying that this was sort of your style, that you're a very positional chess player. You like to have plans where you feel like you can drive a strategy home and be comfortable, and I think you do very well in bullet and blitz because you're consistently in positions that you know, right? You're comfortable, and you're able to execute plans at a pretty high level. And I was saying that was kind of your style, but I thought it wasn't going to be the best approach against Komodo, but you proved me wrong because you really had no chances of losing this game.
Yeah, I was happy I went. I didn't expect it to be this good. I mean,
were you happy when Komodo played e5 on move 8 and let you play bishop g5?
I was just going to say that. You read my mind. I was just going to say, like, when he played e5, I'm like, I can't lose. I cannot lose that position. I don't care if it's God himself. I cannot lose.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter because I get the d5 square forever, and he has no.
Yep.
I have a knight on d5.
Yep.
And then how am I supposed to lose if I try?
Yep. Well, this is similar to kind of, the commentary I was saying, and I thought that, again, from that human perspective, I thought you would agree, and you just said it, that as soon as he plays e5, even if Komodo somehow convinces itself that was the right mathematical approach, as a human, you're just thrilled that you get this position where you can sit and squeeze on the light squares.
I was, yes, exactly. Yeah. I was like, he played it quickly too. Mm-hmm. He played it quick.
Yeah, well, that was great. And so the rest of the approach was kind of what we thought, right? You were comfortably driving home. You poke with h4 on move 20. If he lets you get h5, great, but he doesn't.
If I may interrupt for a second,
Okay,
knight e4 must be wrong. Knight e4 must be wrong.
By you.
By me, yeah.
Okay.
I knew it was wrong also, but not just me playing like a position I cannot never, ever lose. And like trading the knights, I just feel like once you trade knights, you really have to be fortunate to break through.
Yeah.
But I think leaving the knights must be best. I don't know what the engine's saying, but
right.
Probably just something just very quiet and like play b3, a3, and just keep on little by little. And one day the knight could break in. It led to opposite colored bishops. And
okay.
It was rough, But.
Yeah, I guess I was sort of comfortable with the idea that you were maybe going to be okay with the draw with 94, but you're right. I guess if you're thinking about that, playing for 2 results approach, where you're okay with the draw, but you want to at least maintain winning chances, then probably the knights being traded is not the best, right?
Okay, I just been notified that 94 was bad. I need to play h4. That was my Pete tells me.
So basically, the plan that you executed, which was similar to what we were highlighting, I was talking to people about, you would try to go for a plan on the light squares because that would give you an attack against the opposite bishops. So that's what you should have done right away instead of trading the knights, maybe.
Yeah, I think against a human, I'm never trading knights ever.
Right.
I knew not to. I just figured like, all right, I don't need hiccups.
Right.
I didn't expect to do this well to be comfortable. I'm like, all right, what are we doing? I did think I was still winning after 94, but it's probably much harder.
Well, it's understandable, yeah, and like you said, to kind of take away any of the potential complexity of it. But yeah, it looks like against a human, something like h4, h5, play the light square attack would have been how you would have beaten me in blitz for sure, right? All right, so you played 94. We get this trade, and then as you kind of said, you sat on the position. Not really much anybody could do, especially once you lose any chances for b4. It was just kind of a matter of time. And all right, well, let's let you get some rest because I don't want to. The truth is, you got us on the edge of our seat, dude. I am so excited that you got this draw.
Thank you.
I like to say I'm proud of you.
Thank you so much, sir.
I am. I'm real happy for the human being here. And maybe if you get some kind of a similar critical moment in the next game where you can play like a knight e4 style move or like an h4 move, maybe you'll have that. Maybe you'll have your wits about you and you'll go for it, right?
Hey, I didn't get shut out. If I didn't get shut out, I was nervous.
After watching me lose every game, you were probably nervous about getting shut out, right?
Of course, I expected to be shut out. Sorry, no, it's a miracle I'm not.
Well, not a miracle. I think you played phenomenal chess. You stuck to your guns with a position that you felt comfortable with, and you didn't allow opportunities. I think e5 helped a lot because it was really that transition human beings love against the engine, right? e5 helped you, but you played great today, man, and I can't wait to see you play in about an hour and a half.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Well, I'm gonna let you go. Let's go ahead and end our Zoom call here. I'll bring you back another time, and
Okay.
and I'll see you in a couple hours. Okay? Probably about another hour. We'll start another call. Take a break.
Okay.
All right. See you, man.
Cheers.
All right, and there you have it, fans. Yaacov Norowitz going to get ready for the next round. I'm super excited. I loved his approach. His insight there was interesting about the way he wanted to play something according to his style and how it worked, and he was able to play comfortable chess and keep the life out of the position for as long as possible, and that helped. And he tamed the beast. He didn't slay the dragon, but he tamed the beast. You got to be excited that the human being didn't get shut out, especially after watching me. For any of you that have even if you have animosity toward me, it was hard to see the humans get their butts kicked so badly, right? But okay, Jakob is doing well. We wish him luck in the next round, and I will see all of you in about an hour and a half back here on Chess TV. So make sure you join us in just a little bit for round 2. Peace out.